Greetings, my beloved Black people. Welcome back to the plight and struggle of Black people in America. As you know, on Sundays we have our Prominent Black People series, and we always have a special guest. This time we have a repeat guest that have been here before, and wow, he's quite a fella. I mean, this guy, I met him, well, I know more than 30 years ago. When I first met him, I met him over there in the area of Bachman Lake. The brother was doing a film inside a laundromat. I met him, he was quite young, and then I come to find out the brother does many things, write books, plays. Brother LaRome Armstrong, he's born and raised in Dallas, Texas.
Good morning. Peace and blessings.
How you feeling, man?
I'm fine, Brother Lorenzo. How are you?
I'm great. I always say every day above ground is a good day. That's what I say.
Indeed. Yeah, true indeed. True indeed, sir. It is a pleasure to be on your show again.
Absolutely.
And I hope that your audience will find something interesting in the things that are discussed.
I'm sure they will. Nothing else based on your topic, because it's quite strong how you put that together.
Well, hey, man. I mean, that's thank you, and I just take what the Creator gives me. The Creator just is when you told me, the Creator gave it to me, and I brought it out like that.
That's what's up. I love that.
So that's how it came, just like that.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think are the political? The Black political dynamics of hip hop. What do you think that is?
The political social dynamics of hip hop.
Yeah.
Well, okay, not black music, but hip hop in particular.
Well, okay, that was what you said. The power of Black music as a social political dynamic. So I'm just trying to grasp it.
Okay, no, I'm gonna bring it all in perspective. That's no problem.
Okay. Oh yeah.
It's all still. The social, with me, you just I'm gonna catch it. I'm gonna connect the dots.
You're a scholar of many things. Yeah. I already know that.
So, the social dynamics, the social political dynamics of hip hop, I would say they start. If we're gonna talk about the essence of where they begin, I would say it begins with actually the song "The Message" by Grandmaster Flash. I'm sure you're familiar with that. It's like a jungle sometimes. It make me wonder how people
I didn't know the title, but I knew the artist. But yeah, we know that song. Come on.
Yes, sir. Well, that song was called "The Message," man. And
I didn't know that.
Yes, sir. By Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five.
I know the song.
That was the first socially conscious political hip hop record to hit it. I mean, it opened up the door for the Public Enemies, KRS-One.
Oh yeah.
Tribe Called Quest, Grand Nubian, whoever you want to throw in the box.
In the positive lane. Yeah.
Yes, in the positive. And so the social, to go back to what how you introduced the title, the social dynamics, the political aspects of hip hop have to do with all the social conscious music. Now, if anyone's listening, if you into Snoop Doggy Dogg and NWA, with the exception of Ice Cube. But if you're into that kind of mainstream pop, colonized form of hip hop, that's cool. I'm not knocking that, because some of that is okay, good beats. But the political, social awareness hip hop, the hip hop that people don't discuss or talk about as much, is the hip hop that really put hip hop on the map. That is the hip hop, because even Run DMC did socially conscious political hip hop. If you look at the early run, it's like that, and that's the way. So they were thought provoking as well.
Right, but my question is there any more social hip hop left in the positive lane? That's what I'm trying to. I don't see it. Where is it?
Well, hey, it's out here. I mean, not in mass numbers.
Now don't get me wrong. Sorry for cutting you in. Don't get me wrong. I've seen the brother over there in England, and he has a black father, white mother, and he's really conscious on it, and he's talking about white people shouldn't use the N-word if that's your friend, that type of thing. You probably know the guy. I don't know his name.
Akala. You're talking about Akala. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Too. And I didn't hear him use the N-word. This is the thing I have a problem with. Primarily is the N-word. I know a lot of people don't like profanity and stuff like that. It's not good. but it's always existed. But the part I hate is that black people are constantly calling black people derogatory names. That's the part I hate.
Yeah, and that's the part you're most likely not to hear in a conscious social political hip hop. Now, don't get me wrong, you do have people like Black Star, Mos Def, and Talib Kweli. They've used the N-word, and there are other socially conscious political hip hop artists that have used it. However, very minimal. And I think it was done more figuratively. And I'm not trying to say, well, I'm gonna give these guys a pass. It's not like that. I'm just saying that you're not hearing it constantly in their music. So if somebody like you take 3 6 Mafia using the N-word versus Mos Def and Talib Kweli, well, 3 6 Mafia is using the N-word, talking about killing the N-word, while on the other hand, with a Black Star, you might hear N-word use it as a way to motivate you to get you to be a black king. Like Mos Def quoted, we use a B's of queens, we use the N-words of kings. He used that as a
see, well, he was using it as like you say some information about it.
Exactly.
And that's totally different than those that are embracing it to say that we are that. That's the problem I got. They making like that's what black people are. And I got a big problem with that.
It goes to your Biggies and Snoop Doggy Dogs.
All of this so-called current culture thing now. It's the N-word or cussing or killing. That's pretty much it these days for the primary rappers, right? The ones that get all the play, all the notoriety, all that kind of stuff. Because, excuse me, like I talked to some people the other day, and to me, it's about getting at those executives up top. Now, if they can lock these guys up for what they're doing because of music, accuse them of this why somebody killed the cop, why can't it be the people at the top that's allowing it and making all of the money, why they can't be held accountable too?
Well, I'll put it like this, cause and effect. Because some people love money, some people like money. Yeah. Now, the people that like money use it as a tool. They don't love it. They like it. They like what it can bring them and what it can do for them. But they have to understand they never put money over people. The people that love money put money over people. That means they'll kill for it, they'll steal for it, they'll lie for it, they'll destroy for it, they'll be a slave for it. That's the difference.
Absolutely, though. But sadly, it looked like that's pretty much what we got is the ones that will sell anybody sold for the dollar. They don't care how it hurts our people. Now, check it out. You mentioned Ice Cube. Okay, that was in the genre of music. But that brother ain't got it right in movies because he allowed Cedric and wrote the words apparently, but approved to say Martin Luther King wasn't nothing but a hoe. So I got a big problem with him on that.
Okay, let me say this. Not to defend Ice Cube, because I agree with you. When I saw that movie, I had a problem with that too. I still
got a problem with it. I still got a problem with it.
Still. Okay, I'm gonna say this though. I haven't written Ice Cube or anything like that. But if I got to meet him, and I get emails from Ice Cube, let me know what he's doing, because when he did the social contract thing, I'm one of the black people that thought that was cool that he came with. It didn't matter if it was political or it didn't matter if it was Democrat or Republican. What you gonna do for black people specifically? So I got a part of his thing. You know what I'm do? I'm gonna do this since you brought them to. I'm gonna email him that and ask him where it came from because I feel like
wait, you saying where it came from? Is that what you're gonna ask him?
Yeah. Well, why did he put that in there?
Yeah, why did he allow it?
Who wrote with his idea, with the Cedric Entertain idea? Did you allow him to put that in there because he wanted to be a person from that time? So I'll ask him. I'll ask him and see what he says.
See if you can get the brother to do a public apology to those that hurt. See if you can get him to do that.
I'll do that. Because I know when speaking of concept about when I met Public Enemy when they came to Dallas.
Now that's who I was with, Public Enemy. That was my thing.
Back in the 90s, they came and they performed at RJ's by the Lake. Okay. I met Flavor. I met Flavor and I met Chuck D. I gave him my business card. I knew I wasn't gonna hear from him, but I gave it to him. I gave it to it anyway. But I
remember Black Images. You remember Black Images?
Black Images, yeah.
And when
Emma Rogers.
She would bring people in. She brought Chuck D, and I took a photo with the brother at Emma Rogers bookstore.
Yeah,
they used to bring people too.
Yeah, very, very down to earth. He was very hospitable. We shook hands. We talked a little bit. And I just told him I appreciate what they're doing. Keep doing the music that they're doing for the people.
Oh, yeah. I love it.
And Professor Griff, who is also original member of Public Enemy, you know, he spoke at the Dallas Black Film Festival that I produced. He spoke there, and I got to talk to him. That was 2009 or 10.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know about that one.
Yeah, he came in. I got it on a flyer. I'll have to give you the exact date. I wish I had the flyer in front of me. Okay. But he came and spoke. We had to talk to him, man. Very down there. I love Professor Griff. Also, and I got to give these brothers some shine. Bro, this is social conscious hip hop. Some people listening might not have heard of this group. Dead Prez. I don't know if you're familiar with Dead Prez. Are you familiar with them?
I heard that name, but I'm not familiar with them in any extensive manner because, you know, in rap, I got stuck on Public Enemy when we was out there protesting and stuff. I was so stuck on it. I followed Tupac through movies, Juice and Poetic Justice. I didn't know he was a rapper until he got shot. That's how focused I was on. I didn't know he was a rapper. That's how, you know, I raised a family, been married, worked full time, and volunteer. I ain't got a lot of time for bull. You feel me? But Public Enemy was my thing. Fight the power, and I listen to that every day. You know what I'm talking about?
Well, you bring up an interesting subject when you said Tupac. You and I bring back to Dead Prez. That's Stick Man, and that's M1. M1's daughter was in my play called Black London. That's how I met him. I didn't know. She kept saying her dad was a musician. I said, what does he do? He raps. I said, where is he? She said, he's in Europe right now. I said, wait a minute. What group is your dad with? She said, you ever heard of Dead Prez? I said, yeah, I know Dead Prez. It's bigger than hip hop. I said, they're conscious hip hop. I know them. Stickman and M1. She said, M1's my dad. And I said, what? Next time he's in Dallas, bring him in. Let him come into where we practice here at the Act of Change. Let him come in. She brought him in. And we practiced at the library too, at the Dallas Public Library. She brought him in. I met him. We talked about 2 hours. I wouldn't expect it, but it's just that when you connect, wow, man, you know, I mean, very, very down to earth brother. Appreciate M1. Big up. If he sees this video, peace up and black love, M1. And Tupac Shakur, who you brought up. Now, the thing about Tupac is similar to Ice Cube in this sense. And now some people that are hardcore Tupac fans might get upset, but I got to come with the truth. Tupac is brilliant. He's phenomenal. Undoubtedly, arguably the greatest MC to some people. One of the most thoughtful.
I'm one of them.
Are you? Well, I don't think he's the greatest MC. I think he's one of them. But I do think he's thought-provoking.
Beauty is in the eyes of the beholder.
That's what I'm saying. Depending on who you talk to.
That's what that is. Yeah.
Thought-provoking. He's very thought-provoking. But I do say Pac at the same time was a mass of contradictions as well. Tupac was born and came from the Black Power Liberation movement. All of us that studied him, we know that. Afeni Shakur's son, Geronimo Pratt's godson, Matula Shakur's stepson. I mean, we can get down. All the people.
Let me say this before you wrap yours up. I contend that Tupac was evolving when he was murdered. And I believe that he would have stopped using the N-word and encouraged other blacks to do the same. This is my belief. Because once I did find out Tupac was a rapper and got shot, I followed any and everything I can get my hands on about Tupac after that, for sure.
Okay.
And that's the conclusion I came to.
I have a response to your conclusion.
Go ahead, brother.
Now, I don't think there's any evidence to show that he would have stopped using it.
My opinion.
But I'm gonna say this about your opinion.
Go ahead.
I do believe that if you had mentioned that to him and you had said, brother, can we evolve beyond that? I think you probably would have do. Yo, we can do that, bro. No problem. We can do that, brother. No problem. He does have tracks where he don't use that.
Let me tell you one reason I believe.
Go ahead.
Now,
why you believe it?
What I don't know if the things I saw him do different because the letter I wrote to Death Row Records before he was murdered.
But who's holding? Okay, keep going. Okay.
Yeah, let me tell my story. Yeah, I wrote Death Row Records, okay? And I told Tupac I work with youth and we deal with youth. And what I like about their music is the beats. I said, but that language is so raw, you can't even use it to the general public. And I said, is it possible for when you do your rap, can you make a PG version? And I say in that way, the youth could have something to listen to as well as the adult. Now, I never got a response. I don't know if it helped or not, but Tupac did a plethora of songs with no cussing and no N-word, if you know that.
I was about to say that. He
Okay,
always
okay. So I'm telling these I think those are symptoms and signs that the brother was evolving to me.
But he'd always do that. That's even.
I didn't see it until.
Oh no, he always did that. He did that with Digital Underground.
Well, check it out now. I know I got like a couple of CDs that got nothing but Tupac, no cussing and stuff. So still to me, that says the brother mind was somewhere better than what we saw. That's my point.
But my thing is, you have rappers, you got rappers that aren't even conscious that have tracks like that. To be honest, that have tracks that you want a clean version.
I mean, I don't know who's conscious or not unless I hear or see something from them.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, you have people that say nitty gritty hood kill up that actually have put out songs that just a clean version of it for the radio. So
let me ask you this: like, who that was big? Who did that was big in somebody? Biggest.
Actually, Snoop has songs where you actually they took out a lot of the cursing and they made it clean for the radio.
But I don't think he actually made
the radio.
Speaking of Snoop Dogg, you probably know that he made a 2-disc gospel CD a couple of years back.
And I wouldn't have purchased it. I mean, that's hypocrisy to me. He did. He did that to me because it's commercial to do that. Because he has a built-in audience.
That's fine, and I'm not saying that the fella did it because he loved God or nothing like that. I'm just saying the fact that music could be made different ways. And my thing is this: okay, if that brother is sincere or not, if you got some cuts that can help somebody's soul or whatever, I think that's a good thing. And I listen to
if it's real.
Got some good. Wait a minute. You saying if it's real, but if the person that's feeling and listening right then is real. Perfect example. I heard a story about a person called in to a suicide number, and it just so happened while they had the person on hold, they had a CeCe Winans song, and that song, something about it, made that person change their heart. See, so wait a minute. Let me say this: it don't matter if CeCe Winans are good or not. The music still would have done what it did. Is my point. So,
but Snoop wouldn't do that song. He wouldn't go do CeCe Winans song. Snoop was not going to be doing the song CeCe Winans did.
Wait a minute, but what's your point? Because I wasn't trying
to relate that
to that. I'm saying the music, the impact it has is more important than the person that made the music. If the music helps somebody,
I tend to disagree.
And we can't disagree.
We're going to agree to disagree. We agree to disagree because CeCe Winans and Snoop Dogg, no, it's totally different. How you live your life. CeCe Winans lives a different way.
But you're missing my point, brother.
Oh, I get what you're saying. The message, the person here, and it did something.
The music can come from a horrible person and still have a positive effect.
Yeah. Okay. Like, give me an example. But she's not a horrible person. Give me an example of a person.
Good, bad, or indifferent, sir.
No. Give me an example of a person that's like that, where they had this example
that. What that you talking about? They're like that. They're
a horrible person. A horrible person that makes disgusting.
Let me say this. I don't know if these particular people I know personally, I don't know any horrible people. Now, other people, we're speculating.
We're musicians.
Wait a minute. We're speculating on what they are. But I'm saying to say they're horrible, maybe not. Unless you're close enough to touch the person and have some kind of real relationship, you don't know what they are. If you go by social media or TV, you don't know what people are. Perfect example, what they do a lot, they will show somebody like Morgan Freeman, put a lot of good positive stuff in front of his picture like he's a decent dude. And this guy wants to get rid of Black History Month. See, we gotta watch the tricks they play because they play all the time.
But to me, because I know who Morgan Freeman is and I've studied and I've heard what he thinks about Black history, I would never consider him in what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Here's my point. When I know that you're fake, you're not real. I don't care if you do say a good message. You still that fake person. And that's what I'm saying about Snoop Dogg and any other body that because you do a song, I'm gonna do a song with Talib Kweli, but I do this kind of music. I do gangsta rap that talks about killing Black people, but I'm gonna put a conscious one on there. I could take Jay-Z and get the same example. Jay-Z gonna go up and do a song with Common, but I know what you really about based on your music and what I've heard you say.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Since you said that and brought the brother up, what is Jay-Z about? Because you said you know. What is he about?
To me, he fits into the F word.
Okay.
The F word is fake. He faked it. Okay. I think he's a great MC in terms of bars, how he puts, but in terms of the social consciousness, I think it's phony. I mean, he jumped on the Colin Kaepernick bandwagon to get that plug and get that hookup from the NFL. He used that, but I don't think he was genuine, or I don't think he was legitimate and honest about his intentions. He just wanted money. I don't think he's ever really been. He's never been down with the Black Power. He'll use it like Still Nigga when he did the song and he makes the social conscious. You know, you're doing that at 50 years old, but you got people like KRS-One been saying that since they were 20, 21.
Right, but I'm glad you said think, because have you ever been close enough to shake Jay-Z's hand or had a personal conversation?
Wait a
minute, brother. I'm going somewhere. I'm just asking questions to get where I'm going. Okay. None of that. Let me ask you this: do you know anything about the movie The Harder They Fall?
Jimmy Cliff? Are you talking about the brother from the reggae singer? You talking about the original starring Jimmy Cliff, the reggae singer, The Harder They Fall?
I'm talking about the movie The Harder They Fall.
I'm talking about the movie, the reggae, about the reggae guy stars Jimmy Cliff. Is that what you're talking about?
Okay, I'm talking about the guy that's Seal, you know Seal the singer?
Yeah, that must be a remake because the original.
I only know of one. We're talking about 2 years old. How old?
Seal, the British black dude.
His brother directed it.
Okay, that's much later. The original is Jimmy Cliff, who they did in Jamaica.
I'm talking about a movie like last year. Okay,
that's the new version. I know
that's the only version I know about.
Okay, well, I'm letting you know
about. Okay, but
that's one that's a remake. That ain't the original.
I'm not interested in that one. I'm telling you what I'm talking
about.
Well,
I'm telling you the one. You asked me if I knew.
Let me get my point out. Let me get my point out. Because we was on Jay-Z, right?
That's what we're talking about.
And that's the point I'm trying to make, if you let me. Okay, anyway. Now, the brother, that Seal brother out of Europe, him, he directed it, partly produced it. Jay-Z produced part of it. I'm sure his was the money. These are the people involved in this movie. Okay, the brother in the middle, he directed. Jay-Z was a producer. The other brother is James Lasseter, a partner with Will Smith. And they started Overbrook Entertainment in Philadelphia. Now, obviously, you didn't see the movie. Now,
no, I just said I didn't. Not that.
Brother, I'm just talking. Let me.
Okay, keep going.
Like I said, obviously, you didn't see the movie based on what we just said. Okay, now what the deal is this. The movie purposely made it clear that we are not tolerating Caucasian people calling Black people the N-word. Okay, now Jay-Z, I don't know where his mind, body, and soul is on every and anything, but this movie purposely wanted Black people to know we ain't tolerating the N-word. And he was part of producer, which means he put some money in it. Okay, now, and I'm saying that's significant. It's the only movie I've seen in years and years that didn't have the N-word in it. And brother, why are you doing that? Okay, but you steady shaking your head. No, that's rude. But anyway, the thing is this. I haven't seen a movie with cussing and stuff in it that didn't have the N-word in it if it had Black people in it. That movie, they purposely didn't use it. And they had the early scene that when they stopped the train, the conductor that was driving, he had to stop it because the sister was on the track on the horse. And he got off and he said something, you stupid. And Gary say the N-word, they shot him in the head. And I'm saying it wasn't used. So my point is this. We only know what we see about these people. We don't know what's in people's heart, mind, and soul based on everything, because some people would do some more horrific thing than use the N-word for money. And it hurts us. But guess what? You got people that would do a lot of things for 5,000, so 5 million. I mean, I'm not saying it makes it right, but for too many Black people, you've seen how the ratio of Black people that embrace the N-word. So many Black people think that is nothing. So if you got people think there's nothing wrong with it, why wouldn't they do it for a bunch of money? So we got to be the agents to get our people to understand we are not that. We're not an N or ends, none of that. And then show and demonstrate the type of things we believe our people should act like. Not just talk about it, show our people about it. That's what we need to do. But go ahead.
Okay, let me respond to that.
Absolutely.
First of all, Jay-Z is a businessman.
For sure.
Businessman, just like white businessmen, they play both sides of the fence.
Not all
He just
of them.
played
I'm
both.
talking about black people. I
I'm
ain't talking
talking
about
about
white
him.
folks. I ain't talking. Okay,
I'm
well, you brought up
I'm
white
using
folks. I ain't
Jay-Z.
talking about them.
I'm using Jay-Z because he emulates white men.
Okay,
So,
but I'm just saying this.
and
Not
I'm gonna
all
tell you
black
how.
people. Not all black people act the same.
I'm not talking about black people.
You
I'm
said
talking
business. You
about
said
Jay-Z.
business. But you
I'm
said
talking about Jay-Z.
businessman. But you said
I'm talking
because
about
he's a businessman is what you said.
no. Let me
You say
finish my
because
statement.
he's a businessman. Go ahead, though, brother.
No, I didn't say that Jay-Z as a businessman imitates certain white men. Okay. I know this. Okay, he imitates Warren Buffett and people like that because he's discussed this. I've heard him say this. I've never heard him say what black man, Robert
where
Smith.
You gonna get to your point, brother? We're not
okay, let me finish.
Go ahead.
Let me respond. I mean, I'm responding to everything you say.
Okay, I'm gonna be quiet.
Okay,
as long as I need
you gotta let me speak, brother. If I'm gonna be clear about it,
as long as I need to, brother.
Yeah, but let me make my point. You know, if we're gonna let me make my point, let me make my point about it. I'm gonna explain about Jay-Z. Since you use Jay-Z, I can specifically talk about him. He's a businessman, black businessman that plays both sides of the fence. Once again, if I got the money and I want some favor from that particular socially conscious crowd of black people, I'll put money behind that. But at the same time, I'm with the fool nigga dog crowd too. You can't do both. It's either one way or this way because this is going to be a clash. That brings me back to this. He made a line in one of his songs. The truth is, I would really like to speak like common sense, but I made 20 million and things ain't been common sense. That's the Jay-Z line. We're saying that I'll do anything for the money. Truth is, I would like to speak like Common, the conscious rapper, but I can't. I made this and I can't go back there. So I applaud him on investing that, but that was just a business move. I'm not gonna say that means that he loves black people. I'm gonna say that means that he whatever make money in his case. And that's my opinion.
I noticed you use the word just. You say that was just for business. You don't have no way to know what just was in anybody else's heart, sir.
I'm basing it on his watching what he does.
But that doesn't make it accurate though.
It don't make it non-accurate.
True, absolutely.
It don't make it non-accurate. See, we're gonna go this way.
Right.
We can go there on intellect.
You're correct.
Okay. So because everything I'm saying, I can, it's evident. I'm not.
It's fine, brother. Whatever you use to have you feel confident, it's all good.
And the only reason I'm bringing Jay-Z is because you mentioned him. But
but we can't talk about Jay-Z without talking about white men. I don't get that.
No, I'm saying he emulates that. He follows his model is Warren Buffett. I've heard him say this, man. He talks. So I'm going by what I heard him say. Robert Smith, Original Lewis, Junior Bridgman. I am seeing him say those black people that have really done successful. I am hearing him say that.
Does that mean? Let me ask you this: does that mean he haven't said it just because you haven't heard him say it? Does that mean?
Well, I would think he would make him being a black man. I would think he would make the black people that inspire him.
But I know that you say your thoughts a lot. You say your thoughts a lot, but your thoughts are not all supreme, sir. You're mistaken sometimes, just like me.
And I'm not saying they are, but I'm saying what we think we normally speak. So a man thinking.
That makes sense.
Okay. I mean, really. I mean, so a man think it. He speaks it. It comes from the mouth. Okay. I'm going by what he spoke and what he says. But taking it back to social conscious hip hop.
Yeah.
Okay, because he's not socially conscious, so I don't even know how he got in the conversation.
I believe you're right. Because I brought up the situation about the N-word. That's how he came in.
Okay, because he's always used it in his
premiere movie. Right.
Yeah, if I go look at
people can grow.
Yeah, I understand that, but if you used it in 15 albums or 12 albums, you kind of I expect to hear the N-word from you. That's kind of like
if that's your track record.
Yeah, same thing with Snoop and a whole lot of other people.
I'm always believing the person can redeem themselves. That's just my nature. I believe like that. Yeah.
Brother, I believe that's why some people join Nation of Islam, but to redeem themselves. I was in a gang killing black folks. Now I'm Assalamu alaikum. I mean,
I think any man can do that.
I get that. Yeah, people can change. I do believe that. But I'm saying when I talk about people like KRS Warren, if I talk about Eric B. and Rakim, you talk about Eric B. and Rakim, KRS, if you go to the early albums, you won't even hear the N-word mentioned.
I can go listen to the early albums didn't have it. Fortunately.
Yeah, they don't mention it. I mean, Arrested Development. Yeah, Arrested Development.
Yeah.
I mean, I can.
So what year did those type of rappers go away?
When the white people in the mid-90s, I would say mid-90s, they started eliminating that, taking it off the radio in the mid-90s because there was too much socially conscious hip hop being channeled, thinking of a master plan about, YZ and, you had all these brilliant, poor righteous teachers. You had so many of them, man. Razcast. I mean, the Coup from out of Oakland, California.
So now pretty much they're gone.
They still around. You still have conscious. You still have conscious.
Go ahead, brother.
No, you still have conscious hip hop. It's just underground, or you have to know certain art. If you ain't in into that hip hop, you still got it out here, but it ain't gonna get no popularity. It ain't gonna get no major play.
And they're not with labels and stuff like that. You're saying
exactly, and they not gonna. And people not the major corporations. The people that exploit us aren't trying to assign those people.
The ones we're not holding accountable. Right.
Yeah.
And we need to hold them accountable. We got to find a way. And there's got to be a way to hold them accountable. If you tell me that these youngsters that saying it can get in trouble for saying it, somebody should be able to get in trouble for co-signing them saying it. Like, if you hire a hitman, he's shooting, you get caught, you in trouble too. These youngsters doing bad, they ought to have to pay something too. Those top executives. Well, out of all of them I've seen, there's only one black that's in the loop. And everybody else is a Caucasian of some sort that's putting out this murder music and this N-word music and all of that type of stuff, see? So we got to hold these people accountable in the way that it hurts them in the way that they stop it. And it's only going to hurt them if you hit them in the pocket significantly. They don't care about a little bitty fine. What's a $1 million fine if you made $10 billion? That ain't nothing, right? So we got to find a way to make them accountable.
Yeah, and I wish it was that easy. Because
it ain't easy. It ain't easy.
Because to be honest with you, it's highly impossible for it to happen. We don't have enough. First of all, the people that I'm gonna say it in the reality right now, I don't see it happening.
Okay, now right this minute, no, because things aren't in place. We got to get up off our butt and do the work that it takes to get there. Yeah, it could be done. The only thing that's impossible is something against the law of physics. That ain't against the law of physics, so it's possible.
Well, depends on how you look at physics.
I hear you, because I know somebody that get heavy into academia and they challenge that, and they could because that academia is deeper than what most of us know. You feel me? And I'm one of them. I know about it, but I ain't deep like that. But I still contend the law of physics because you can't defy gravity unless you have some type of apparatus or machine. That's what I'm talking about.
I'll just say this, not to rule out physics. I just go with logic. Logic says it ain't gonna happen.
Not my logic. My logic doesn't, because I believe in black people and we going to do our thing. Okay. So not my logic.
Well, logic. Water is wet. Fire is hot. What the masses are gravitating toward on the radio, that's what's being played. The black program director, he plays certain things that come from those white corporations where white people run those. So my point is, like, based on that social dynamic right there, it won't change no time soon, because it would have to be
soon. What do you call soon?
I would say within the next 20 years.
Oh, it'd be sooner than that. Oh yes, it'd be sooner than that. Oh yes.
I'm basing that on the evidence. I don't see the evidence to push to make that.
And I can understand that outcome from that point of view, but I'm looking at it from what I'm believing and what I'm going to do, and knowing it's.
So you're going by faith. You're going by faith.
No, I'm going by confidence. Confidence and faith are not synonyms.
Confidence. Okay, what?
Confidence.
What?
I don't really do faith.
Confidence based on what? Confidence based on what?
Belief in my ability.
In your ability, or is that all the black people's ability that are doing this?
Oh, I'm one person. Me and like-minded blacks. Yeah, so not the masses aren't on the right page.
Okay, and that brings me back to what I'm saying.
We'll get them on the page though. We can get them there though. That's my point. We and go and get them there. Okay. I just can't. We're gonna get them there, brother. Watch and see.
Okay, well, I'm not gonna say I'm fatalistic. I'm not gonna say that I'm.
I mean, you can doubt it and not believe it.
I'm idealistic, but I'm also realistic.
I am,
and I get your point. I hear your point, but realistically,
that's from your perspective, because you ain't in the frame I'm in and doing the things that I know I'm doing. See, that's different.
Well, I'm doing a lot of things, but I still don't see it changing.
Right, but
I'm
maybe
doing
you
a
ain't
lot
working
of
on
things.
that like that. But then to each his own, brother. It's all
Right.
good. None of us are monolithic.
But I'm doing things that would shift because I work with young Black people all the
Yes.
time.
Yes.
When you're in academia, you work with children, you work in school, I see it regularly. Now I talk and I try to influence as many as I can that will listen. But I'm not
Right.
gonna say that's the, and then I taught high school for 6 years at Roosevelt High School. So, and I was a soccer coach and I was a track coach
Okay.
at Kip Truth Academy. So I've been around children, from the elementary to middle to high. And I'm gonna say there are some people that will listen, but the masses that I don't. It's gonna take more than just me as a like-minded person with people that think like me to move this to the next level.
It depends on
Now,
what y'all
we can
doing.
be
It depends on what
consistent.
y'all doing.
We're doing a lot. We're
No, I don't mean
disseminating
y'all as in
information.
you and your group. I mean any group of people that's doing something depending on what they're doing. I ain't talking about you.
Yeah. I just don't know if we have enough groups of like-minded adults pushing in that direction. Because you got a lot of adults pushing the opposite. You got just like we pushing in the positive, you got a lot of Black adults pushing in the negative. See, we got a lot of adults influencing me.
I know what you're talking about, and that's
so
great now.
way.
But as we grow this side of like-mindedness, people that care about the well-being and betterment of Black people collectively, as that grows and we do things for the masses to participate, this is the thing. Now, I ain't thinking in no shape, form, or fashion, LaRome, that 100% of Black people gonna do anything. But the great thing about that, it doesn't take 100% of Black people to make things better for 100% of Black people. That's the great thing. I suspect if we get 30% on the same page, that's more than enough. And once we get things rolling, the masses, most of them are idle people. Most of them are bandwagon people. But once they see the avenue to get some things you need, want, and would like to have, and it's free, they come. And the masses, I'm not talking about 100% ever. I'm never talking about 100%. That's not even realistic for any people. No people are 100% united, sir. Nowhere.
Well, I would say most people in this country, when I look at the ethnic group, the breakdown, they're more united than we are.
Everybody is, sadly.
Okay.
But we're going to change
so
that,
nobody's 100. We say nobody's 100%. But the masses of the people I met who are Latino, Arabs, or Asians, or East Indians, or even Europeans are on the same page.
More so than us, but they are not all united. They're not 100% united.
Oh, well, we know nobody's 100%.
Okay, but I thought you were
to make a difference, we have a long, extremely long way to catch up to even 20% at this point.
That's your belief, sir.
I'm not saying it can't be. I'm not saying it can't be done.
I'm just countering saying I believe differently. That's all I'm saying.
That's fine. We agree to disagree. But I just say from what I see, I don't see anything to show anything different.
Which says to me, when you do see, like a lot of people get to see what I'm talking about, that's gonna be a great day for you. Because obviously you would appreciate that, I'm sure.
It's great. I'm thankful for the young people that I get to work with and influence on a regular. I thank the Creator for that, because I know I've touched a lot, writing, play, all the stuff I've been doing over the years. I know I've touched a lot of them because I've seen them become lawyers. I've seen them become teachers. I've seen them become, law enforcement, whatever they want to do. And they call me, track me down. But I still know that's a small number compared to.
But guess what? You're not the only one doing stuff. I'm not the only one doing stuff. We got a lot of Black people doing stuff that you'll never know about unless you're around them. Mass media is not going to show you that. Guess what? We don't need to let mass media know everything we're doing either. But
that's true.
And it looks much better than what it really is. I promise you that, sir.
Yeah,
you'll see better. You will see better.
I believe in the art of war. I don't believe. That's why I don't get on and post a whole lot and give out my information all over Facebook. Because I'm a covert person. I deal in covert codification. I don't do that. People that know me. They know. But I look at what people post sometimes and I analyze and I'll make my, think my comments to myself. Because I don't share everything.
Now everything, but you got some pretty, got some pretty enlightening posts yourself. And provoking and anything else.
Yeah, I try,
so
but
it's not like your posts don't have that, because they do.
Right. I post little stuff that just to get people to think a little bit. That's all. I mean, it ain't to catch up, but I want people to think, you know, and I've had people inbox me and make comments and say, oh man, that was deep, or woo, what is, you know, to get, and I'll give them this or that because I want them to understand what I'm posting. You know, if they had any, what did that really mean? Male or female?
Because I've asked you that a couple times on there.
Yeah, you know, you and quite a few others. Yeah, but yeah. And again, I'm one of these people. I just believe in, you know, I want the best for my people, and I think social politically, the music realm is so powerful. It affects so many. Because even if a person is poor and they can't afford to do this, that a lot of times they can't listen to music.
Yeah, and that music make you feel different things.
Yeah, things. And it's gonna produce bad or good. Because the music it's either bringing you up or down. It can't be in the middle. You're either going this way or that way. I mean, and it is giving you positive or negative energy. The music you listen to, psychologists and psychiatrists have said this. So and that of all colors, what you listen to, what you put in your head comes out through your actions. So that's why when people ask me, oh, you like that preaching, hip hop, you like the Goody Mob, and yes, I like all that conscious, pro-black, whatever. I love that music because I know what it did to me as a youngster. It inspired me to do a lot of things I've done and accomplished, and I'm still doing because I feed myself that. But then, if I look at black music from the social conscious perspective, I have to pay homage, not just to the hip hop, but before you even get to hip hop, you go look at people like Billie Holiday, Strange Fruit, 1939, when she talked about the genocide of black people being lynched from trees, like fruit.
In Mississippi.
All over, yeah.
But she was specifically talking about Mississippi.
She's all over. Well, in the song, I don't hear her mention a state.
He does. And the reason why I like to mention that, because Mississippi is only second to Texas, the second largest state in the nation of hanging black people. And Mississippi is the 25th largest state. And they're only second to Texas, hanging black people. So that means
but okay, once again, I'm just saying, I didn't hear her mention the name. But I'm saying to me, it was a metaphor for all states that were doing that to black people. Because yes, you're right, Mississippi is tough. Alabama, Louisiana.
Second I can go out Texas.
Yeah, but it was happening all over the United States actually. Because even if we go up north, it was happening.
But the numbers is what I'm referring to.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm just talking in the experience of lynching us. That happened all over the country. So I really a lynching might not necessarily have been from a tree. It could be that they just beat you to death. It could be that they burnt your house.
Specifically, what we saw hanging from trees and that strange fruit. That was specifically.
But that was happening. But let me ask you this: since you say that, did she say that in the song?
Does she say what?
Mississippi. That she specifically talking about Mississippi?
I'm not 100% sure, but through history of knowing and reading about stuff, where it was even in New York, it say another black was lynched today. Everybody I thought knew that's into this type of stuff and could bring her up. I thought everybody knew that was about Mississippi, what she was singing about. If that's in the song, I don't know. Right.
What if I said, it was happening, I could see more in the South. If you say in Louisiana, Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, I think she's talking about a collective. I don't think she was talking about one place.
Yes, sir.
But we can agree.
Do your research. Do your research.
I already have.
You didn't get that song from Mississippi?
I didn't get that. I didn't get
research is
no. I understand. I'm not leaving Mississippi out, but I didn't get that as the sole place she was talking about. I took it. She was talking about Georgia, Alabama. She was talking about everywhere black people were being
missed. No, she wasn't. You missed it. Let's go to something else. You missed it.
Okay, because so you know who wrote the song then?
No, I don't.
Okay, well, how do you know she was talking about Mississippi? How you know she was talking about
the history, sir? Let's go on to something else. When you do your research, they had outside in Harlem, brother. Now that's why I don't see. How did you miss that she wasn't talking about Mississippi? But we've been on.
I'm not saying she wasn't. I'm saying that's one of the places she was talking about, not the only.
Okay, cool. We're going forward.
That's what I'm saying. Also, if you go back and you look at 1937, Louis Armstrong did a song called Black and Blue. And he's talking about being black all over the country.
Well, I don't know that song. I just know the man. I love.
Yeah, but I'm just giving this history for those. I'm giving this for people that might want to.
So what was the black and blue situation about? What were they talking about?
It was about being black in America, and it's black, and you get the blues. You blue.
Oh, that blue music.
Even a mouse. No, not the blues not the blues music. Blue as in an attitude of sadness because you're black and blue. Right. Mm-hmm. So he said, even a mouse won't stay in my house. That's how bad it is being black. I mean, it's a beautiful song.
Yeah, but who was he living with?
No. He's giving these are metaphors.
He mean in his skin. Okay.
Yeah, metaphors. Or if you go, they're metaphors. If you look at Big Bill Brunsey singing a song like,
I don't know him.
When will I be called a man? If you're black, no, if you're white, you're all right. If you're brown, stick around. If but if you're black, get back.
So that came from a song?
Yes, sir, that came from a song.
We used to say that on the picket line, but I didn't know it was a song, no.
Yeah, it was a song. Everything I'm telling you, I factualized it. And
I never heard of that. Oh, man, I know you well researched, read, and everything else.
I own that actual recording. I own a copy of the recording by Big Bill Brunsey. He recorded in the late 1936, I want to say. Yeah, that's about blues singer. Yeah, Big Bill Brunsey for anybody that wants to check him out.
Right.
There's another song, and I'm saying these are the progenitors. These are these people set the stage for what would become Public Enemy and what would become KRS-One. This is the pre-socially conscious, the social dynamic of political hip hop concerning black people. It stems from our music in the past. They laid the foundation. If you listen to John Coltrane, there's a song he did called Alabama. And came out in 1964. Beautiful song. All instrumental. Coltrane is wielding his sax. The song is called Alabama, and it's paying tribute to the 4 black girls that were bombed in the church in Alabama in 1964.
Okay.
At that they called it Birmingham, which is Birmingham, Alabama. Mm-hmm. They bombed it, but so it hit John Coltrane, who had been playing with Miles Davis. That was his sax player. So he was inspired to do a song called Alabama. And the song Alabama, if you listen to it, you can about that, you can actually feel that in that song. So it's quite spiritual, very powerful song. So I would advise people to check that out by John Coltrane.
Check it out.
And then there's a guy named Josh White. He has this was an early song too. This was recorded in, I want to say, the 40s, early 40s. He had a song called with Uncle Sam says. Uncle Sam says, when will I be called a man? He's talking about Jim Crow, and he's talking about black people joining the military and how they were denied certain rights and all of this. This is before Jackie Robinson.
Right.
This is before it was signed. Oh, hello. Well, okay, here we go. Before it was signed, this is before they signed to integrate the military, because people don't understand. And I feel I have to explain this because people a lot of times will say, Dr. King, they pushed integration was destroyed as well. The military was integrated before Dr. King started marching. All Martin Luther King wanted integration for was public accommodation. That's it, for public accommodation, to be able to go while freely wanted to go, whether it was a restaurant, to drink at any Florida fountain, basic stuff. The integration of the military comes way before that. The Brown versus the Board of Education, that's before Dr. Kingdom get into really kicking it off, going into that stuff. So I'm tying all this in back to the music. Josh White has a brilliant song, Uncle Sam Says. People might want to check that out because the song gets into some very honest details about being black and fighting hard and just the whole experience and how this country has castrated black people in all social orders, including military. So I recommend that too. And if you want to take it back even further, you want to go back to the field, Sweet Chariot, when the so-called African slaves or the so-called Africans held captive as slaves were picking cotton, because they were this. And I want to just clarify this. A lot of people, when they just say slave, I think it's very important that people understand that those were African people that were being held captive as slaves. They were prisoners of war. They were not slaves in their nature. Those people had various jobs in the country they came from. They came from the continent of Africa. They didn't come over here as slaves. They were prisoners of war, which means that they had a life. They hadn't been born into slavery.
Right, so, they were enslaved, but not slaves.
Yeah, exactly. That was not their time. Those were slaves. No, that ain't what they were. They were made that and being held captive and forced into that. I mean, if that was because another reason why we know that is because if that had been their normal way of living, just being in servitude, there wouldn't have been any fight, struggle, or rebellion. That's my rightful role. That's how it would have went. And I feel that I can't just when I go there, I can't just talk about the white men because Arabs enslaved black people way before white folks did.
In another land, or you mean here in America?
In Africa,
Okay.
And I'm talking. It starts there. Before you get to transatlantic slave trade, you have to deal with the Arab slave trade, which Arabs started. White men got it. White people, the Europeans that participated, they took that from the Arabs. So it was really an Arab ideal before the white men.
Was that even before Islam?
It came with Islam. It came with Islam.
Simultaneously,
Islam came in the 7th century. You know, if you look at, there's a book called, you know about the Quran, but there's another book called the Hadith.
Okay.
It's a Muslim book. It's Prophet Muhammad talking and telling about his experiences, and he's talking to his prophets. And in that book, you know, it kind of gives, because there was slaves in the book. I don't know if people know about Bilal, but Bilal was a
black man.
Yeah, but he was Prophet Muhammad's slave. He was a servant.
Right, but he was black. I'm saying he gave him a duty to call for the prayer, that thing.
Yeah, but he was also a slave. So and I'm just saying it because I think a lot of times I've had people and I used to go to mosque, you know, and I've had people. That's why I don't belong to a religion, I guess, because when I do the in-depth research, everybody comes up short. So I just choose to be spiritual. I respect our religions, but I follow none of them. But I respect them all because I think they all have good pros and cons, and it's interpretation. So I say this, and I'm gonna bring it back to the music. When we talk about the Africans picking cotton, they had coded songs of liberation. They were saying even then, sweet chariots coming forward to carry me home. That's talking about going back to Africa. A lot of people were thinking they was talking about going to the heavens. No, it was a codified.
I thought you were talking about to escape to the north. I thought you were talking about that at first.
Yeah, no, they was actually talking about at that early part. They were talking about going back home to Africa.
Part, right?
Because you still have people that still speak it, they have remnants of their language in there. Now, when you get into the blues and see, like the song I shared about Uncle Sam said, that's liberation blues. When will I be called a man? Nephew Browns, that's liberation blues. Billie Holiday, Strange Fruit, that's liberation blues jazz. So and there's just a plethora of songs like that. So I'm gonna speak fast forward because I know your show. I don't want to. I want to make sure I give as much. I want to make sure I give as much information as possible.
Yeah.
Also, people need to understand that the part that early Negro spirituals that a lot of the Africans held as slaves would sing gave them a will to survive and live. Our music has been such a therapeutic part of our lives as human beings. It's been our survival chain more than anything else. And not only that, let me add, our music has been America's largest commodity. The largest gross national product that this country has ever produced has been the music. That's throughout the world. Reason I say that, Black music in America is the only music that travels from country to country, from continent to continent. Nobody else's music does that. And if you go look at Black music, and when I say Black music, let me clarify this for your audience. I'm talking about the music that the Africans that were brought and shipped to Jamaica made that turned out to be ska and reggae. I'm talking about that as well. I'm also talking about the music that the Africans brought to Cuba, Colombia, Venezuela, Puerto Rico, whether we're talking about bamba and polenta in Puerto Rico, or we're talking about salsa in Cuba, we talking about the music in Colombia, we talking about reggaeton. All of that comes from Africans bringing that with them.
Right.
So it came from and we the only people that could bring it because we were the people coming from that experience.
Yeah, we don't know.
Everybody's music is tied to their experience. If I listen to some Celtic music by Irish people, Scottish white people coming out of Europe who were not even classified as white when they first came, but that's another story.
Right.
But if I'm listening to their music, with all due respect, with the fiddles, that's born out of their experience, escaping the potato famine, because they came of escaping the potato famine. That's what was happening. So their music, it kind of it ended up being a baseline for a lot of what they call hillbilly music for white folks, and that's fine. I studied that because I love music. I love my people's music. I understand our contribution, how other people were influenced by our music as well. Because along with that social conscious political context of our music, we have to understand that we're influencing everybody around the globe.
The world,
you know, if you listen, I don't know if you go listen, you have Chinese hip hop, you have Italian hip hop, you have Korean hip hop, you have hip hop, British hip hop, you have French hip hop, you have Scandinavian hip hop, you have Norwegian hip hop. What do they all have in common? Something they took from the African descent people in the United States. And that's also goes for reggae, which is worldwide. It also goes for salsa, merengue, which came from the Dominican Republic. Our brothers and sisters in the Dominican Republic / Haiti. That's how you get merengue.
If somebody asked you, what is hip hop, what would you say?
Whoa, that's a loaded question, but I'm gonna try my best to answer.
Okay.
If I said in my book, Hip Hop Collectathon, I give a more in-depth description.
Right. Yeah, because you wrote a book on it. You sure did.
Yeah. So, if I had to just off the top of my head just go, I say hip hop is a unique form of communicative music developed by Africans in the United States that became a social political voice for Black people in the 20th century.
I like that.
I wanted to give it a unique historical context.
That was a good one.
Yeah, it just came off the head because you asked me off the head.
But it was good.
So, I mean,
and I'm thinking about a person that truly don't know what it is. And that definition definitely gives them quite a bit, I would say.
Yeah, because I would want them to know that it has something to us being here in our experience. At the same time, I want to make it sound academic enough so where they want to pronounce it to their college, they could do that. But if they want to say it at the elementary school, they could do that too. So I want to, and it was still thought.
That's interesting you made that type of remark because that made me think of Martin Luther King. I had noticed when Martin Luther King was alive and doing his thing, he made sure that he spoke simple enough that an elementary school child could understand. And I thought that was real cool. Because I'm like, they got to be doing it on purpose. I thought that was really cool. And I try to do that myself.
That's very important. It's very important because the great Malcolm X, one of my most inspirational. I mean, he's one of my biggest influences.
One of mine too.
And Brother Malcolm they used to have a statement. He used to make it plain. Brother Malcolm, always make it plain. Make it plain.
That was the best video he did. I saw about half of that. That was the best one. Make it plain. That was the best one.
Well, and that came out of him always saying that, and other people said, Brother Malcolm gonna make it plain.
He gonna make it plain.
Yeah, Malcolm said, well, we could talk the oversized academic talk, or we could just go make it plain and lay talk for laymen for everybody to understand. And anyway, he said, because and some of us, we get off on that. We've been to these institutions and we get off on projecting the superiority complex with our own people. So we try to talk about them.
That is so interesting, but you're so right.
We get off on that because that's how we've been trained to do that.
Let me give you an example that I had experienced before. You know, I was out there protesting with John Wiley Price and them, the Warriors, right?
Yes,
And we
sir.
would sometimes have meetings with people. This time we had met with the minions, right, from the grocery
Okay.
store.
Okay.
But for some reason, I don't know why this guy Buff Parham was there. He was from Channel 8. I don't know why he
Okay.
was there, but he was. Anyway, that fella did a deal like that. He said something, and what it was, I just didn't hear what he said. And he said, and it turned out the word he had used was germane. And I was like, what'd you say? And he thought I meant, what did you mean? And I would never do that to myself. If I didn't know, I wouldn't have said nothing. I ain't gonna let you know I don't know. But he had set that up so that somebody wouldn't know. And I didn't even hear what he said. And I'm like, what'd you say? And then he said, I said germane. And then I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think John Wilder defined it after he said it. And I'm like, look at this sucker. And I'm talking about Buff Parham. And I'm like, I couldn't do him like I felt I would love, because it would have been appropriate being in a business meeting like that. But I thought that was so screwed up. It was just like what you just described. This fella is trying to make somebody look stupid. And I just didn't hear what the sucker said. You know what I'm saying? But I will admit, I didn't know what the word meant. But I would have never asked what it means if I didn't. I ain't gonna make me look like that. So I know what you're talking about.
Well, that's something that many of us adopted well from the conditioning in the institutions of sub oppression in the head. See, because my thing was, I had a professor tell me this once, because I was writing these essays, and extraordinary essays where over exaggeration of words, just a catastrophe of words, just this whole lexicon of just over the top stuff, just epistemology, just I was using all these words. And I never forget Dr. Silverman. I'm sure he might transition by now.
What school was that?
This was actually, when this first happened, this was actually at El Centro before I went to UT. Before I went to the University of Texas at Dallas, before I graduated, because I had a brilliant professor. Then I tell you what, something that he broke down that I want to share. Because I can tie this all back to the music. Dr. Silverman said to me, he said, LaRome, come here, let me talk to you. Yes, actually, LaRome, let me talk to you. Come here. I said, okay. That Dr. Silverman, I think, was originally from Austria. I want to say he's from somewhere in Europe. Very good professor, man. I know if you could tell me, he said, LaRome, he said, you know what I noticed about you? I said, no, sir. What, I'm black? And when I started laughing, he said, that's obvious. He said, but no. He said, I think you're a very brilliant writer. I think you're excellent. I think you're very advanced. He said, but this is the thing I want to tell you. You use too many words to make simple statements. Too many complex words or advanced words to make simple statements. And it's not necessary for a student of your caliber, or really anyone that learns to write. It's not necessary. He said it's not necessary for you to do that. Your point was made right here. Why did you go on and on and on? And he said, when you do that, you run into a problem of creating, throwing off, you're going to have discrepancies in your writing there. So you create problems for yourself because you're trying to show off with words.
Have you ever read?
You talking about being humbled?
Okay,
he said you say if you break, this is how people get fragments. They keep going on and on and on, and I'm gonna be the greatest, and I'm phenomenal, and I'm better than everybody in the class, and writing my essays extraordinary. No, not necessary. You said it right here. Why would you get fragmentation? So don't do that again. Stop doing it.
I know you heard of it. You read the book, The Psychological Chains of Slavery?
Dr. Naeem Akbar.
Say, man, did you read it?
Yeah, I read it a long time in the 90s.
All them big words is what I'm talking about. Man, that book has so many big words, and I'm like, this must be for a fellow psychiatrist. It was not comfortable for the normal reader. It had too many big words in it, man. Big words every paragraph. It's like the average person won't even have fun reading this.
I'm not Dr. Naeem Akbar, but I'm gonna try to speak on his behalf because I've seen him in person. He's very down there, really sharp, brother.
I'm talking about that book.
Yeah, he taught it. I think it's very important that I cite. He was a professor at Florida State for a long time, where Deion Sanders played football. But Dr. Naeem Akbar, brilliantly known, and he also would do classes over at, I want to say, FAMU. he did classes at the black school. Not that he was on a payroll, but he would go up there and do lectures and stuff because he felt they needed it.
Giving that
but I noticed when I saw him, and you're right, that has a lot to do with him not attempting to be overly academic or anything. It has a lot to do with him as a psychologist. He comes from a world of just his plethora of knowledge that he has in his head. That's how he speaks. He's not doing that intentionally.
Right, but it seems like that book was for his colleagues, not for the common individual in the street.
I think he wrote it for maybe people that were in college. I think it was because I own a copy and I love the book.
I read it and I'm like, goodness gracious. I mean, I know some words, but I don't know all them big words, and then that makes me have to use the dictionary. And I don't like to have to use the dictionary a lot to read a book.
Right. But I mean, and that's a little paperback too.
It's not big,
but it's a little paperback
with big words.
Not a big words. Yeah, and then I don't know if you're familiar with. And Dr. Nemaba, I'm glad you said that because there's a lecture that he commented about black music. He has a lecture he did years ago where he don't. It's not specifically about black music, but he mentions black music in there. Dr. Claude Anderson. As a matter of fact, in my first book I wrote about the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and the power of black music, I mentioned something that Dr. Claude Anderson said in there. Dr. Claude Anderson made a statement, and I have to give, because I love to give people their props. That's one thing I'm not into. I am not into plagiarizing. I do not plagiarize. If a rapper said it, I'm going to say his name. If a black scholar said it, I'm going to say his name. If what they call a street dude said it, I'm going to say his name, because I do not plagiarize people's work, because I don't want people to do that with me and then not give me the credit. I wouldn't want people to do that with me. But I'm going to say this. Dr. Claude Anderson made it, and I found it to be profound when I read Black Labor, White Wealth. That's why I put it in my book. And I cite him as a source. Right. But he made a statement. He said that if black people just got paid on just what they got from black music, we ain't talking about all the inventions, the traffic light, the broom, the iron, the elevator. We ain't even getting into all that. We're getting into them sciences as well. But we're not even talking about that. We're talking about just black music. There wouldn't be any homeless black people in America.
And when black people do our thing, it ain't gonna be no black homeless people.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, but just think about our profoundity. If black people just got paid a percentage as a collective of what black music has produced worldwide, the money that is made, there wouldn't be any homeless black people. No, and I think it's very important to cite this. It's like if I take Nat King Cole, who is, I think, the greatest vocalist of all time in terms of word and song. Now, there are people, well, what about Sam Cooke? And all those people are great singers, but I'm talking about as far as taking the English language, which was not his language. It's not his origin of language. But to take the English language and articulate it through song like Johnny Mathis and Nat King Cole, no one else had done that.
So where was Nat King Cole from? I thought he was born here.
He was. But I'm saying, when I say around his language, English, meaning his origin is African, so that wouldn't be his mother tongue. Right. That's the origin of the oppression of him his people being enslaved in this country. I'm saying based on it, but he took it. He took the language that some people had coming from that continent where English was created, but no one mastered it through word and song like he did. And here's the proof. Yeah. He built Capitol Records. His record sales are what established and made Capitol Records the record company.
What they are today. That's why he was the first black man with his own TV show.
That all the sponsors have quickly pulled from because he was black. Yeah, and you're right. And I think that's very important because people, when they talk about great singers, they may mention Luther, and I get all that. But I said, go listen to some Nat King Cole.
Let me say this to that also. It's interesting because I love reading books. And I was reading a book by John H. Johnson. You know, that's the founder of Ebony and Jet magazine. Yes, sir. And I was reading that book. And that's one thing I love about biographies and autobiography, because you learn so much about what else is going on. What happened was Nat King Cole, he was just a pianist. He wasn't even a singer. And somehow the singer didn't show up that night. And that boss of the place said, well, somebody gonna sing. They said, well, have him sing. And he did. And that's where it began. They didn't even know him as a singer, but they loved that voice. He was a pianist.
You're right. He would.
That's what's so great about reading books. You learn so much.
I actually have one of their albums. He was with the King Cole Trio. It was 3 people. It was him. He was playing piano. There was another brother playing guitar, and there was another player playing upright bass.
Yeah, they gonna have that.
That's exactly right. They were called the King Cole Trio. He was known because he was a jazz pianist. Right. That was his main. Right. So he was made, and I'm glad. You know what? It's that turned out to be a blessing for him because his voice is extraordinary.
Yeah. So, and he was just a pianist, and like you say, his voice made everybody love him. That's amazing that wasn't even what he thought was his forte.
Exactly.
That just shows you the brilliance of us.
Yeah. And I'm gonna tell you. So those pioneers and taking it back to the hip hop, social political aspect of hip hop.
Right.
If we get into, I talked about the early part of black music. If you get into, I don't know, you get into rock and roll. And you get into Chuck Berry. Well, there are essences of hip hop. There's the essence of Chuck Berry even in hip hop, because he was one of the first songwriters in rock and roll that wrote all of his own music. A lot of people don't realize Chuck Berry wrote all his songs. That's why he was able to come back and sue people. He even sued the Beatles, but mainly John Lennon. He sued them. He said, "Wait a minute, they did a song, and one of the songs they had did, and Chuck Berry was listening to it. You know your music if you write."
Right.
So Chuck Berry said, "Wait a minute now." He told him in private because he didn't want to embarrass him because he know they were influenced by him. So he put him aside and he said, "Hey, you know that's my music. How much y'all gonna pay me for it?" He did before because he didn't want to make it like embarrass him. Right. And they actually agreed on about to pay him, and they gave him some other deal like you can also, if you want, I'll record on your song or anything you do, or you can work with me, whatever you want, Chuck. So they just acknowledged. That. Yeah, same thing with the if you take Little Richard, same thing. Some hip hop artists sampled Little Richard recently. Can't help it. The girl can't help it. A lot of people that are listening to that song, they don't realize that's a Little Richard sample. The Girl Can't Help It is the name of the song. I have one of the copies of that album by Little Richard. And so also the social dynamic, that's rock and roll. So we're going to get to soul, early part of the 60s. Now, one of the fathers of liberation, what I call liberation soul, that put thinking on the map. And to me, the father of liberation soul, to me, is Curtis Mayfield. Curtis Mayfield.
You know he was cold.
And I say that I love Marvin Gaye. Don't get me wrong. Marvin is great. But me and a brother was talking about this once before. And he was talking about Marvin. I said, have you ever listened to Curtis Mayfield? He said, I listen to songs. I said, no, you need to go really listen to Curtis Mayfield. And he said, why do you speak so highly of him? I said, go listen to Curtis Mayfield from early 60s on. Curtis Mayfield was giving us so many messages of liberation, loving yourself, being politically and socially active, achieving and do for self. That's all through Curtis's music. Marvin comes and he gives us what's going on. He poses the question. Well, we can see what's going on. It was war. It was struggle. You can see what's going on. You can see. Well, therefore, I take that from Dr. Frances Cress Wilson. Dr. Frances Cress Wilson, the sister that, may she rest in peace, the sister that wrote the ISIS papers. Yeah. She said that we posed the question, what's going on? Well, that's one of the problems. You got to see what's going on to do something. We don't pose that question. We need to know what's going on. That way we can better fix it. So Curtis Mayfield didn't ask you what was going on. He told you in case you didn't know. Keep on pushing. Keep on pushing.
I know the songs. Yeah. When I was young, I didn't like Curtis Mayfield or Marvin Gaye. I didn't get to like them till I was more mature. When I was young, I liked Stevie Wonder, Temptations, Stylistics. I didn't even like the Four Tops, stuff like that. But yeah, I didn't like Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes until Teddy Pendergrass went solo. Yeah, because I was into, I guess, various aspects of my life. I'm the youngest of 5, and I remember at one point I felt alienated from my whole family, like I'm in the world by myself kind of thing. When you're going through certain parts of your adolescence and stuff like that, and depending on what else is happening with your siblings and stuff like that, you handle it how you think you should handle it. And from my whole life, I just kind of feel, even around people, I've been in this struggle pretty much as a solo. Maybe I'm meant to be that way, you know, but it's all good. I had my pop till 12. My pop died when I was 12 years old, December 26th. I would have been 13 that coming February. And so and I had my mom my whole life. So, I mean, I saw that two-parent thing. They were religious people, but I've never been. And I've always had questions, because I used to ask the question, why is everybody white? I was serious too, but in earnest, I was just curious. I mean, as a matter of fact, one photo I did see, the only black I saw was a black that was wearing the type of clothing like a Roman or something, but he was just fanning with feathers. That's the only black I saw in that religious book. I'm like, why everybody, where the blacks at? And I'm like, come on, man, this don't make sense to my mind is what it was, but I couldn't be defiant, you know, to my mom or parent. You know, it wasn't until my pop passed that I start evolving to my own self, you know, because 12 is pretty young. And so, yeah, but I've seen and heard what so many people do with religion that I have determined through my own discernment what everything is. And what I believe, I'm rolling with it.
Well, yeah, rightfully so. And I respect with everything you just said. But I'm not going to get into. I mean, you're the host. But you're
a man. Do your thing now. As a matter of fact, if you could bring something to it that could benefit somebody, even me. No, come on, let me hear it. I need it, baby.
Okay, well, I'm trying to stick. I'm trying to stick to your subject matter that we agreed on.
I mean, but we can have a little bit of everything.
Okay, and we can go. Okay.
Come back.
Well, okay. Now it's interesting. Now that's another person. He put some very liberation. He got liberation soul too. Stevie Wonder made some very socially conscious political music. He as far as Berry Gordy was telling his artists to stay away from doing that. A lot of people don't realize that.
Okay.
But he was telling people on Motown to stay away from the social political conscious thing until actually 69, 70 when the Temptations and the Spinners, they both did this song. There was a song called The Black Man that the Temptations did, the original, and the Spinners came back and did both. I suggest
I'll check it out. Ain't no question. I'm checking it out.
It's called No Matter How. And the lyrics are so brilliant because in the song they say, no matter how hard you try, you can't stop me now. Now you know.
I remember that lyric. I remember that lyric. I think with the Temptations.
Yeah, Temptations. I like both versions. I never
heard it with the Spinners. I've heard the Spinners, but I never heard that. I think I heard that one with the Temptations though. Yeah. The late great Dennis L was just singing the lead. He's the tenor on that. He was the first replacement Temptation, right?
Yeah, for David Ruffin. Yeah. So he's got the lead. But what makes the Temptations their version really good, and I'm telling you why I like the Spinners version better. But what makes the Temptations version so unique and so fascinating is Eddie Kendricks. Because you know he's singing that high pitch, that falsetto, because you hear him in the back making it. And I gotta give it to him, man. That dude, that's a singer. That dude,
he didn't need the studio. Man. He sounds just as good out the studio as in the studio. That guy there.
Yeah, I tell people, look at in fact, I can tie him into the liberation movement. He had a song, "Keep On Pushing, Baby." Well,
oh yeah, I remember the song.
He's talking about keep on pushing whatever you're doing. I know some people, he's talking about just no woman. He's talking about you as a person. Keep on pushing what you're doing. You know, if you're trying to go to school, go to school.
Right,
if you're trying to open a business. Keep on pushing, babe. He's telling you, keep going.
Yeah,
you know. But then he even took a song about a shoe shine boy and made it brilliant. Shoe shine boy, you've been working so hard. I mean,
that's that black brilliance. We got it like that.
Thought-provoking. But the reason I like the Spinners Black Man version is because at that time G.C. Cameron was with them, who later on, a lot of people out there might say, well, who's G.C. Cameron? Well, G.C. Cameron was the brother that did the song from Cool High, It's So Hard to Say.
I remember that song. Yeah.
Well, he was an original Spinner.
Okay, I remember.
I know
that song.
Yeah. So GC Cameron, you know, this is before they have Felipe Win, before he even joins the group.
Oh yeah,
But
the guy
he
with the
makes
beard.
that how they blend them, how they harmonize, no matter how they just something about when the Spinners did that.
Yes.
Seemed like they were like, look, we got to do it stronger than the temps.
Every time you do the singing part, it sounds familiar. So I think I heard that one too. Yeah, but I just didn't have a conscious thought about it. But yeah, I've heard that one too. The way you said it,
make sure you go back.
I'm going. I'm going.
You're gonna play both. You're gonna go back and listen to both versions.
And I'm gonna listen to Temptations first.
Okay.
The way
that's the original.
Yeah, the way that's the original. And I'm definitely check them out. No doubt about that, for sure.
And during that same period, now you got them doing that, and that's the only reason why that song was even done on Motown is because there was a Holland Dozier and Holland. Those were songwriters. Okay. They kind of took on, told Berry Gordy, look, we need to do this because of the social climate in America.
That was happening.
They pretty much told him, no, man, we got to do this. So that's how you got that done, really, because of them.
Yeah. And sound like Berry Gordy was worried about pissing them Caucasians off. Sound like he didn't want to get blackballed. He didn't want to get blackballed.
He did, you know. One of the brilliant voices to come out of Motown, I think that I need to get his brother a shout out to, because he was also one of the fathers of rock and roll, was the great, brilliant singer with brilliant voice, one of the best voices in music ever, Jackie Wilson.
Oh,
Jackie Wilson. Yeah, a lot of people don't know he had a song called Reet Petite. It came out, I want to say 1957 or 58. Berry Gordy wrote that song. So Berry Gordy was a talented dude, man. And I also want to cite the fact that he wasn't the first black person to actually own and operate and distribute music. He wasn't the first. Right. The first that people need to know about was a brother named Harry Pace. And Harry Pace had a partner, but this was in the 20s. They did this in 1920.
What city?
Where were they? They were up north. I want to say may have been in DC. They might have been in DC, or they might have been in, I want to say DC. They might have been in DC, or they might have been in Baltimore. I'm not 100%, but I'll reference my book. But this is 1921. They came up with a label, and they called it Black Swan Records. They had their own record company, and they produced a lot of black artists. And what was the brilliancy of that was to do this in 1921, in the 20s, to be not only recording the artists, but just be you in charge of distributing the music all over the country. So, and Berry Gordy followed their lead. And then you get the brother, a lot of people don't know this, VJ Records, which was a brother and sister. When I say brother and sister, they were both black. They were a married couple. Was the brothers, so they had VJ Records. The name fails me right now, but it'll come to me probably after this conversation. But the amazing thing about VJ Records, they produce a lot of soul acts, but they also are the mother and fathers to produce of music, to produce the Beatles. The Beatles started out on a black-owned record label. A lot of people don't know that.
Right.
They sold the Beatles to Capitol Records because they didn't know the Beatles were going to blow up like that, and they didn't have the mass production to produce the music. So that's how Capitol Records ended up getting the Beatles. But the Beatles were basically British white dudes doing black music. And I think it's very important that people understand that, as well as the Rolling Stones. I just threw that in as a side note. Bring it back to James Brown. We getting James Brown get a part of liberation soul music that gives us socially conscious, the father, mother, progenitors of the origins of what we call social conscious political hip hop. James Brown gives us, I don't want nobody to give me nothing. Open up the door and I get it myself. Then he gives us, say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. You know,
and I needed that one.
Yeah, I mean,
in the black community, you know how we do. I was pretty dark, so I was the butt of black jokes in all black community. Okay. I come from a black ghetto in North Philly. They have some that's black and Puerto Rican, but I didn't come from that. I come from all black. And this one lady named, I can't think of her name. Willie Mae something. Somebody recently told me her last name. I can't remember. Anyway, you know, they take roll. And they like Lorenzo Gray, and she like, you mean Lorenzo Black? You know, so we get that in our community. I don't know how many
Well,
names I done had in the household. You may have 3, 4 names. That's just how we do. I'm finding out.
yeah, well, and with all due respect, and since you mentioned, I'm looking at it from a psychoanalytical perspective because I was also in that. Well, the dark joke, but I was able. It didn't affect my self-esteem.
It didn't
And
affect
I
me at
know,
all.
but I know other kids. I know other children that it did.
And
And the
Lincoln,
only reason it didn't affect and I even heard it. I heard it a lot. I mean, but the only reason it didn't affect my self-esteem, I'm gonna say, is due to one of my relatives when I was a little boy. When he used to tell me, and I have to give him a rest in peace. I have to give him credit for this. The reason it didn't affect me is because he always told me. I mean, I heard this as young as 7, 8, 9. So he used to always say, "You are a beautiful, you're a handsome young man." And he said, I didn't even know who Nat King Cole was. Back then I had hair.
right,
You know,
right.
I have a little wavy hair. This was no Jerry curl, folks. I just had hair like that. You know, black people have different textures of hair.
Absolutely.
So I was one of those black people when people say, "Well, you got good hair." Our hair is good if the creator made it.
Well, it's
So
fine, of course. It's not good and bad.
Yeah, but I'm just saying what we would say. You know,
Right,
people
but I'm
say.
just correcting
Yeah,
for
I
the
mean, I
people.
agree with you. Yeah, but
no, I'm hearing this from barbers. I'm just sharing it with the listeners so that they know the truth.
Yeah,
Fine,
but
of course.
I heard that all my life. Oh,
yeah.
You look, you got good hair. Oh, you look. Oh, you pretty. You handsome boy. Because you got. Well, I heard that from certain people, and a lot of times, you know. But he told me, he said, "Man, don't ever." So when people would tell me that, he had instituted some kind of a wall in here. Well, you can't offend me because I know I look good, kind of thing. And then man, and that served me right. I needed to hear that being a black male child growing up in the United States. I needed to hear it, especially and this is anywhere in America. I needed to hear that, and I'm not. And then it, of course, as I was getting older, people stopped saying it. But growing up, I heard it. But I seen how it affected some other people that heard it, and how they end up turning to crime and doing mischief. And
well, I don't know if they did it to tell you the truth.
Yeah, because it's what you hear when a child is told.
Yeah, but just saying you black and ugly, I don't think that necessarily send you to crime.
It can affect your self-esteem. Self-esteem can cause, and people can include when you have low self-esteem, you'll follow her. A lot of times you jump on because you're looking for somebody to get that self. That's why people join gangs. Low self-esteem. I mean, if you generally if you feel good about yourself, you stand alone. I was stand alone, dude.
You are, but we got a variety of characteristics of humans, and some people, unfortunately, are born into a situation that even their parents put them in gangs. So I have a lot of concern and sympathy for anybody that's in horrific lifestyles, because everybody's not doing it by choice. Not everybody.
Oh, well, I'll put it like this: when you say they born into it, well, even if you go back that far, those people that chose to have the child and be born into it, they were put in a situation that caused them to be in that. Because if I look at the normal, and I'm not gonna get into that a lot,
right, but I'm just saying that child they have, it ain't that child's fault. That's the part I'm looking at.
I'm not blaming the child.
Yeah. But then they still taking on those characteristics. So when you look at me like that little evil thing.
I'm just saying how their self-esteem is affected. Right. And I'm just talking about the child doesn't know, they're still growing. I mean, they're a child. I mean, of course they can't. But I'm just saying, stuff is put in your head. When you keep hearing, if you keep hearing the N-word, you start using the N-word a lot of times. Well, a lot of times that's what happens. I mean, it's unfortunate.
They don't know better. I mean, I have been using the N-word. I stopped when I was 19, okay? And when I was using it, I was using it like a lot of blacks from the hood use it now. And most blacks I know from the hood, I'm talking about doing something, a little character on the hardship or whatever. They were talking about like I was male and female. The B word was the female, N word was the male. It didn't matter if it was a white guy. I would say, that white end, so-and-so, so-and-so. But I stopped in 79 because I was at Thaddeus Stevens State School of Technology for plumbing, trade school, predominantly Caucasians. And I noticed when they were around, we wouldn't use it. And the way I got from that is like, we respecting them. And I'm like, well, why don't we respect ourselves and not use that at all? And that's what I did. But I only did it for me. back in my early years, I didn't try to tell anybody anything to do, that they should do, whatever. I took it for myself and stopped. But when I was in Texas, I met these people on the internet, come up with a group called United Voice for a Common Cause. And it was specifically to get and encouraging Black people to stop using the N-word. That's when I got into trying to tell other people what would be best for us as a people. But I used to just do things for my personal life. So I guess maybe it's a growth process or something, and then finding my purpose. That's my guess, the way I'm looking at it. But yeah, it would only meant a male. And a lot of Blacks are looking at the color. I even met a lady one time, and she actually worked for the Dallas Weekly. And I met her. I forget where she was from. She wasn't from Dallas. And we got on the subject. And she said, we ends, we just ends. And she working for a Black paper. I couldn't believe it. But that just showed to me how in depth a lot of Black people really think Black people are ends. And that's sad. It's unfortunate. But that's why we got to do things to give some counter information. You see, like watch that last show and see, we talking about a coalition and see if you think you can be a part of that, because we're building it now. Right now, it's just
well, with all due respect, there was another coalition a while back that you were going to do.
No, it was not. No. Wait a minute, brother. That was not a coalition. I said a think tank.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. I'm just saying, I'll be honest with you. If based on that, if everybody's on there, we all on the same page, sure. But if we don't,
well, I'm gonna say this, man. All I can say is check the video out, then you come back.
Okay.
Yeah, check the video out first. Yeah,
okay, I'll check that out.
Yeah, do that first.
Check that out. And it's in reference to what you said. See, we grew up totally different ways, totally different experiences.
I know that from
totally different. The black environment I grew up in was Black. I wouldn't call it a hood. I call it a neighborhood, because we grew up in a neighborhood.
Straight ghetto. I was born and raised in ghetto.
Now, even the people that lived in the projects in my neighborhood, that wasn't really what I would call ghetto, because a lot of people that lived in the projects in the apartments, when you go inside their apartments, they were not dead gorgeous. They had beautiful furniture.
I would suspect just because it's projects don't mean it have to be like the ghetto necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm just saying, because I know when I talk to people from up north or from the Midwest, they come from stuff I can't even relate to. Because in terms of roughness, their roughness is a whole kind of different roughness.
I know, I know that. Yeah, I'm from there. But let me ask you this. Did you go to Bontown? Did you go to West Dallas Project? Did you go
I filmed over there. I filmed part of my movie in Bontown.
What age you talking about?
That ain't bad. That ain't bad. I was in Bontown in Dixon. Is it Dixon Circle? We filmed in
what year are you talking about?
I filmed over there in the 1990s, in the early 90s.
That's what I'm talking about, brother. By then, South Dallas, Bontown, and West Dallas was not what it was. By the 90s, no. It was peaceful by then. I came here in 1980, and I went where I wanted. By the 90s, all that danger was pretty much gone.
Okay, when I was a kid,
I'm talking
I was
70s.
In high school.
If you was around them in them 70s and didn't know nobody, brother, think you're going to go see a girl, you could get hurt. And you got to know that. You from Dallas. But how old are you, though? I'm 63. How old are you?
58.
Okay, so what year did you come out of high school?
1983.
See, yeah. By the time you got out of high school, it was a lot safer than what it used to be.
Yeah, because I can't. I'll be honest with you. And me and some of my partners that I also grew up with, and other people that I know that we didn't have it like that. It wasn't that bad. Now we had people imitating what they would imitate some area, but you don't come from that. I mean, we were talking about. Who you don't come from the hood? You come from a Black working class neighborhood.
Yeah, but Dallas did end up getting a piece of gangbanging in North Dallas.
Well,
and that's let me say this right quick, but this was real though. Right quick. What's interesting is when I come to Dallas, this same North Dallas, if you saw a Black person a block away, you wave, because there were rarely any Blacks in that part of North Dallas, because all the apartment complexes said adults only, which means you kept what they said. A lot of riffraff out. So you know if no children, it ain't gonna be a lot of us. You know all those complexes out in North Dallas, right? All of those in 1980 were adults only living. But the bottom fell out of the economy in 86 with the oil. And that's when they switched it over. And not only all them apartments you can come, Section 8 too. So now that neighborhood is the hood now. It wasn't in 1980.
Okay.
Not, yeah.
And I just said, but I'm just saying when I'm going, even people that like the projects.
Things that got better by the time you got older. Things that got better.
And even growing up in those apartments and projects, when I was a kid, I had friends that rode bicycles from those apartment projects, and they were nice. We did.
Right.
Oh yeah, I mean, right. So when I talk to somebody from St. Louis or Detroit or where you from, Philly, or from Brooklyn, I mean, in all honesty, I hear them and I've read and studied. And I've seen movies and films, but I never had to live like that.
Right,
you know, and I'm blessed. I'm fortunate. I consider it a blessing. And it doesn't mean that I don't know people. It doesn't mean I don't know people that come from that. But it just means that I didn't have to live like that. Now, I would live in that environment, but I'm just saying that doesn't. I understood that people, you're trying to survive, you do what you do. I understand why some people, depending on what your resources are, okay, to each his own. But
a big part of the unfortunate part is like there to here. Okay, Dallas has everything. It's just that it's not as profound. Okay, it's just up there. They got so many people smushed in one space. That row home is so
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
All of that has an impact. All that has an impact, especially in the summer. It always got worse in the summer.
This brother from Detroit and his brother from St. Louis, they shared that with me. And some people I know from some other places back up in Baltimore, they told me that everybody's crowded on. It's just tough, man. So
it's different.
That's why they down south. The people I'm talking about. That's why they down here. They say, yeah, this is just so much better for them.
I can just say Universe hooked me up because I came to go to school, and when I came, my intention was to go back to Philly and start a business in plumbing, heating, air, and refrigeration. But I worked at a big downtown bank building, Republic Bank, and after 2 years in Dallas, I couldn't come up with a reason to leave. I couldn't come up with no reason to leave. So I'm like, shoot. Ain't no way to go back to Philly from Dallas. It don't make sense.
Well, I'll say this as the Dallas site. I've lived some other places too, but I'll say this as the Dallas site. Dallas is kind of like anybody can come here and kind of just make it if you just want to. If you got to, anybody. I tell people that all the time. I say if you can come, you can. I mean, in spite of all the extreme racism, all of that, you can still come and do what you want to do. And I tell people that I don't care who you are.
It's true. Shit, I'm living proof. So your other friends are too.
Yeah, I mean, salute to Dallas. But
I love Dallas.
Okay, and I was in Minnesota for a brief time. In Minnesota, I was just telling people that I noticed this because they asked me, what's the difference between Minnesota and Texas? Minnesota's smaller. That's number one. Number two, Minnesota's cleaner as a state, and Minneapolis and St. Paul as cities are cleaner than Dallas. People ask me, I tell them the truth, and this is recent. And so
that probably ain't hard, I would think.
Yeah, it's real clean, and I say that because they ask me, from the political aspects too. I say sociopolitically, white people they have something called Minnesota friendly that I discovered that they told me about. And I said, well, what does that mean? As a matter of fact, a white person shared this with me. And, a white person. I met two cool brothers up there, one from Chicago and one from New York. Shout out to those brothers, Brother Desmond and Brother Fred. But anyway, I appreciate them, brother. But anyway, I'm gonna say this I'm gonna say this while I was there. I met the white dude before I was there. I don't even remember his name. But he said, hey man, you gotta watch for Minnesota friendly. I said, what is that? He says white people that are real friendly, but they really racist. I said, that's
really ain't friendly.
Yeah, I said we had that in Texas as well. And I asked him, are you one of those? And he said, no, man. I said, I'm a liberal. I said, but you still be racist and be a liberal, but I'm not gonna get it all that. But he was a cool dude.
Yeah,
he was a cool dude, and he just wanted me to know what's up because we worked together at the Target Corporation, and he just wanted me. Because he said, man, he said, how long you been down there? I had been down there barely a week and a half, and I already got a job. He said, where you from? And I've met other people that had been in there for a while, and they said, man, you got a job that fast? Yeah, I'm from Texas. And oh, he said, what kind of credentials you got? And I told him, I said, oh, no wonder. So sometimes, you know, even with that dark skin, sometimes just have what you have under you can make stuff happen. Sometimes.
It's
I'm
based on supply and demand.
Yeah. If they need you,
that's my point.
If they need you,
and you're the only one to do it. They will let you in.
They're gonna use you. And and speaking of the same thing in Dallas, you know, also I hope one day you do a show where you have black people, you know, and this is I'm bringing all this back to social conscious political hip hop, but I hope you do a show one day in the future on black people that have actually had to defeat racism in job situations where they came out with a lawsuit, with a lawsuit, or came out other people had to get fired, stuff like that. Because I would be more than happy to be a part of that show is with the other brothers and sisters who own there. Because I got some experiences I've had where I've been victorious. I didn't have to go to the NAACP. I didn't have to go to Mr. Commissioner Price. I didn't have to go ask anybody black to help me because I helped myself. And it ain't to be braggadocious. It's just that I studied my ancestors, and that's why I got to fight and just strategically defeated those situations. I mean, I had it happen at an oil company where they attempted to fire me because some white people that worked in that department didn't like me. I was the only black in the department, the only black person in the department. Well, it's just that I knew how to document stuff. So I had stuff well documented. So when they made the attempt, I had my bullets in my gun. That was that paper, the power of the pen, as William Shakespeare would say. The power of the pen. The power of the pen don't destroy many people. But it's just I had to use it as a save
some others.
Exactly. I mean, that pen to get you. So anyway,
I do the pen.
Yeah,
I love it.
when we went before the court, the legal court was I'm using HR. I'm using the legal court as a metaphor for the HR department.
Right.
So when Mr. Ginsburg deliberated and he talked to me one-on-one, he said, well, LaRome, what's going on in that department? And he asked me, I said, well, he said, why are they trying to terminate? What is this? Because he said, I don't get that from your character. I know you're a good worker. You're reliable. You're always on time. You go to college. You go to University of Texas at Dallas. You're at UTD, so I know you're brilliant. So what's going on? I said, it's about racism and race. He said, really? He said, he asked me, do you have stuff? Can you support that? I said, glad you asked. Went right there in my little briefcase bag, pulled out documentations of dates, times, what had happened, what was said, witnesses. Had tons of it. He said, he looked at all that. He said, this has been going on. I said, yes, sir. I said, well, I figured eventually this was going to come to this.
Yeah, you apparently saw it coming. And you
the art of war.
That's the good part.
The art of war. When you're very strong, appear to be very weak. Sun Tzu. But anyway, I mean, it's just codified. You know, it's not to be braggadocious, but I'm just saying, even if this was at something that wouldn't, even online, where people could come and they learn and they talk to people that have been in racist situation on jobs or whatever, any kind of job, even if it's in law enforcement, wherever. What do you do? How do you defeat the big bad monkey or the big bad gorilla that's got you in this hostile situation, this hostile environment? Well, there are ways to defeat, and some of the books that I would recommend to people are written by white people. So, and they're old books, but they're brilliant books written by white people, basically how to defeat racist white people. But then I just applied certain theories.
Can you think of a title of one of those books?
One of the books I would tell people to get and to read, black people, any other group, but especially black people, because I think he wrote the book for black people, is a book called Two Nations by Dr. Andrew Hacker, brilliant professor from Cornell University. He also taught at New York City College in New York. And I think he did a little time at NYU. The book is so deep. It's called Two Nations. And he based it on the Kerner Commission's hostile.
What's his name again? What's the author's name again?
Andrew, Andrew, Andrew Hacker, Hacker, Professor Andrew Hacker, or Dr. Andrew Hacker.
Two Nations.
Written back in 1992. That
Sounds
book,
like a good read.
it gave me so much ammunition for life. I recommend it because he lays it out.
Right.
Some of those social arguments that he presents in the book are things I've used to defeat people when I needed to, in very uncomfortable situations. So that's one of the books I would recommend for brothers and sisters to get, because in your library, and I'm saying this to anybody who's listening, all the brothers and sisters listening, in your library, don't just have books written by us. No, don't do that. In your library, you have a balance of books written by anybody that's telling the truth, regardless of their color, on any subject. So I tell people all the time, read, study everybody, because you learn something. I learn from everybody. And anybody that's honest, intelligent, and putting in perspective, I'm going to get your book. I'm going to check your, because I'm going to find a benefit for me. And I tell everybody, don't ever close people out because of their race. You can learn from everybody, whoever it is. There's a book called American Me by Asian dude. Last name is it So a Ho? I mean, I've read the book since 1995, 96. It's on my shelf. It is called, I'm not at home right now, but it's called American Me. But if you pull up a book called American Me, not the one by the Latino dude, not the movie that starred the great Mexican actor, not that American Me, that movie. But there was a book called American Me, and it's by an Asian dude, written back in the 90s, and it's a really good book. His last name is So a Ho. Brilliant book. And he even, in that book, he even says what he knows when he went to a restaurant, how he observed everything. He says that he noticed that the most mistreated people he's witnessed since he's been in the Americas and United States are Black people. He said, not Asians, not me, not white Latinos, not Native Americans, not any other group. He said precisely the group that I see, and I've watched this over years in different areas, in different arenas, not just in one area, is Black people. He said for some reason, the standard policy of oppression and dislike goes against Black people in this country. Now, this ain't me saying this. This an Asian brother saying this.
Right.
I got other white people. I tell people, read some Jane Elliott.
Like you said, he told the truth. That's for sure.
Yes, sir. That's why I just told people, anybody that's going to tell the truth, man, get it. Because it also helps liberate, it helps defend your argument. Because other people, it's like I told somebody when they asked me about the book, the Beatles, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and Power of Black Music, when I wrote that book. Someone asked me, well, yeah, you got a professor from SMU to write the introduction, Dr. Edward Countryman, who was also the head of the history department at SMU. He was the chair. He was the department chair at SMU. It's somebody I met. I've been knowing since like 1990. So I asked him, would he do it? First, he said, let me read the book first, and then I'll let you know. I said, oh, be my guest. I let him read the book. He said he had to read it twice because it blew him away. And he wrote my introduction. Now, people say, why'd you get him? I say, why not? Why not? First of all, he's a PhD over the history department at SMU. That alone, if there was lies in there, or anything that's misrepresented, or anything that's wrong, after my attorney looked at it, who also agreed, but he was going to spot that, like, what do you mean by this? He was saying he learned stuff from the book that he didn't even know. I thought I knew a lot about just history overall, whether it was this history or that history. He said, I noticed you included a lot of stuff that's not music, that's just social history and political history in that book. I said, because when you write books on music, you have to, speak for me personally, you have to include the social and political aspects, me as a Black man, because that's what my life is built around. As a Black man, all our music has been impacted by the social dynamics that we face in society. Therefore, I can't speak on this if I can't relate it to my experience. All my people, whether I'm talking about Jimi Hendrix or whether I'm talking about Fishbone, those are rock and roll artists. Jimi Hendrix and Fishbone is hardcore punk, rock, ska, and straight ahead rock and roll. A lot of Black people don't even know what Fishbone is, but it's all Black rock band. Just like Bad Brains. I mean, a lot of people don't know that. They don't listen to that, but these are black artists. And
Right.
I've always told people I refuse to be in a box. I was put in a black box, but God made me the original human being on the planet Earth, which means black people, all the original people on planet Earth. This is scientific, whether people don't like it or not. It's a fact proven by blacks, whites, and everybody else agreed upon that. Even Asian geneticists who just recently did research because they thought that everybody in Japan and China was originally Asian like them. When they did the research and they came back, they found out, well, we come from Africa. That is good. Of course, you're gonna say that because you're embarrassed. You crush. You gotta go along.
Yeah, save face.
You know? Yeah, exactly. I mean, you came from the Sand people, also known as the Bushmen. They came from them. I knew that. But if you look at the Sand people, they look like Asians, but they black. So from out of South Africa, out of Southern Africa. So I tell people that a lot of times, I learn from everybody, and I tell people I stay humble because people say, "Oh, you deep, man." You know a lot. Man, look. That's all because of the Creator. I open myself up as a vessel to receive the information that the Creator allowed me to get. And I say the Creator is an it because it embodies man and woman, male and female. So I say it's greater than a human being because it made me, it made you, it made everybody else. So we are creatures created by the Creator with creativity to create.
I like that.
That's another.
I like
that's
that.
Another one for you. Free of
charge.
charge.
Like a nugget. I
Free
like
of
it
charge.
too. I like it
Free
too.
of charge. Free of charge.
Yeah, I take it too.
And again, man, that's why last time I was on your show, my apologize. Me and you go back and forth because that's that alpha male energy. That's that testosterone.
Yeah.
With all due respect, there's some people that watching Joe, but thought I see some anger. No, ain't none of that. It's
it ain't anger. It's iron sharpening iron.
It's iron sharpening. Exactly. But I'm just saying that for the audience.
Yeah, that's good. It's all good. Because I welcome people to understand what we're trying to do, and we trying to get our people to be a united people, no matter our differences. Our differences nowhere near as important as our likenesses, because our likenesses is what get us to be a target. So we should be a united people, no matter our differences. No matter if you're a Jew, Muslim, Christian, any of that, atheist, if you like. As long as you care about the well-being and betterment of black people collectively. Period.
That's right. And to add to what you're saying, I tell people this is a formula for success. We must learn to agree to disagree.
Absolutely. And be respectful with it. You see, you got people who will say it, well, we agree to disagree, but they still got an attitude. It shouldn't be the attitude. You feel me?
True.
It shouldn't be that part.
It's done deal. And I tell people, and I'm not trying to get his book, but I'm not just an honest brother. The Art of War, man. That's another book that everybody got to have.
You done mentioned it a few times. I better get it because I've heard of it so many times. I've never read it.
This book. Hey, brother, I read this book back in the 90s. Still, because it's simple.
And since you want to talk about books from the past, it's this one book called Betrayal by Any Other Name by Dr. Abdullah Tariq Al-Mansour. It's a great book. Betrayal by Any Other Name.
You know what? I had that book. Is it orange? Is it a
big thick one? Yes.
Big book. Yeah, I have that book.
Orange and black on the cover.
Orange and black. Yeah, I have that book.
Great book.
I have that book.
Great
book. I actually saw his interview. I saw that brother's interview. And since you're going to put that out, I'm going to go back even further with a must-have that people must get. The Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey.
Oh, that's a good one. I read that. That's a great man.
Folks, if you don't have that book, that's a book you can even let your children in elementary school read and start learning because he simplifies it that simple to where they'll even get motivated off of it.
Well, I tell you what, why don't we just go back and forth for a minute or two on different books? They stole it, but you must return it. That's a brilliant book we need. Brother out of Rochester, New York, Dr. Richard Williams. They stole it, but you must return it.
Okay.
And that's a great one.
Okay.
You
great book.
Hit one. You gonna hit one.
Okay. Once again, I'm not at home, so I can't pull from
you can't pull it, but you can just mention it.
It's in here, but it's in this. It's in this.
Like I mentioned Betrayal.
In the archive.
Yeah, you knew Betrayal by any other name. You knew that one.
Little tiny book, this thin. Little tiny book that's this thin. that actually devastates books that are this thick. I mean, it's.
What's the name
Hold
of it?
Hold on, I'm about to tell you.
Okay.
Right there, that book, it destroys books. Is it little tiny book written by a brilliant psychologist? The book, I'm getting name first. It's called The Psychopathic Racial Personality.
Wow.
And it's by the phenomenal, the late great, one of my greatest inspirations. Brilliant psychologist, brilliant entrepreneur, brilliant scientist. This dude did everything. May he rest in peace because he was gone too soon. Dr. Bobby E. Wright. The Psychopathic Racial Personality by Dr. Bobby E. Wright. It's a little tiny paperback book, but it's something that you must have. Everybody needs to have that book in their house.
So was that just something that he felt and believed, or was he in like some type of particular profession to write that book, or what was his profession, or what did he do for a life type of thing?
What he does is he was a psychologist and a professor, and he was an entrepreneur and a scientist. He was working with computers before computers got popular. This was he wrote this book in the 80s, and the thing, he had a big afro, real, very down to earth, brilliant brother. He was kind of like,
what state did he come out of? A city or something?
I think he was originally from Alabama, but he lived in Chicago. He actually opened up his own hospital in Chicago. It was called the Right Treatment Center or something. He actually opened this up. He did so many things. I personally believe he was poisoned or something. Because
I wouldn't be surprised.
A brother that was doing what Dr. Bobby E. Wright was doing at that time too. I mean, he's done at the 80s that people have yet to match today. One man doing all this. And so I tell people, the psychopathic racial personality, it talks about the sickness and how white supremacy, or white people that practice white supremacy and hate toward black people and any other people that's non-white.
Did you say what year it came out?
I want to say 1980, 81 or something.
Like okay.
Yeah, because I discovered the book in the early 90s, but it had already been printed. And I talked to, when I had the pleasure of meeting the brother, let me get his name, Habu Mankut, Haka Mambuti. I don't know if you know him. But he used to own Third World Press. He originally wrote a book called From Plan to Planet. He was also known as Don Lee before he became Haka Mambuti. Brilliant brother too.
Okay.
But I asked him about Dr. Bobby Wright when I met him, the first time meeting his brother, because he was speaking I want to say I met him at the Doc Bookstore in Fort Worth. He was there speaking, and I met that brother, and he told me, he said, man, you into Dr. Bobby Wright? He said, that's good, young man. I said, yes, sir.
Yeah.
And he said, man, I said, what was he really like? Because he's one of my, in terms of influences, I mean, he's one of my favorite influences. And he said, man, he was a great man. And he did a lot, but his life was, he died too soon. I said, yeah, man, because I recommend this book to this day. I tell people, it's got something there for the black man, the black woman, the black family.
Yeah. No doubt.
There's something there, and there's something there specifically for the black child. And he talks about the whole pathology, the sick pathology that people have in hating us, and he breaks it down. There's so many metaphors. Man, this is a brilliant book, man.
It sounds like
so many different ways. Yeah, and of course, the ISIS papers by Dr. Francis Chris Wilson is a must-have. Everybody needs to have that book in their home. If you want to understand symbolism, metaphors, and how things are done strategically, how they do things strategically, because a lot of times everything's not out front. Sometimes things are done subtle, they're done strategically, they're done metamorphically. They do things different ways to deceive and to destroy you. So I recommend the ISIS paper by Dr. Francis Wilson as well. You can shoot another one. I give like 3 more.
Okay. We can check out Black Massacres.
Okay.
27 well documented Black massacres in this nation. You know about the Black Wall Street, right? But
yes, sir.
So amazing to me, that one was the 23rd. So that means they've been messing us up way before then. Sad.
Okay. Another one that I would recommend, and thank you for that. I don't have that book. I'm gonna have to get that.
I'll get you one. Next time I see you, I have it for you. Do I have something else I'm supposed to give you?
Yeah, I think it's an overdue mug where I supported.
Yes. Okay, yeah. So I thought it was something else.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a book and a mug for you. Let's make it happen less than a week, and it's not totally my fault because I've tried to reach you.
And it's not, but it's just that we both be busy.
Absolutely.
That's a good thing.
But I want to get you this stuff in less than a week.
Yes, sir. Okay. We're gonna make that happen. We're gonna make that happen.
Absolutely. I believe we will.
Another book I recommend is Non-Violent Civilizations by Tony Browder. You probably heard of that one.
What was the title again?
The Non-Violent Civilization. Non-Violent Civilization. Now, yeah, talking about Africa, like Egypt and Ethiopia and even the Sudan. He gets into the whole history. It's about Tony Browder. Tony Browder. I mean, Tony Browder is a brilliant historian and scientist. He's a social scientist, and he actually took an anthropological team and went over into Africa and had them do research. They did excavation and everything. Right, so he's very deep. I recommend that book also.
That's okay. Oh, there's some great readings going on, man. People gonna benefit. Now, this one is kind of personal for me. Power, Money, and Sex. When Deion Sanders wrote this book, he had his purpose. But what happens is when a person reads something, they get out of it what they get out of it. And what I ended up getting out of it, it wasn't the power, the money, or the sex. And I think he was just trying to show you can have all these things and still be mentally derailed, because he mentioned he tried to commit suicide. That's what the talk is about in the book. Okay, now, but for me, the brother had mentioned that if you have people in your life and they're still here telling you love them, okay. Well, I still have my mom in my life, and I've always told her I loved her. I think maybe I didn't, but what I did realize, as much as I knew she loved me, she had never told us or me, I love you. You know, sadly, one of them things growing up in hood, especially during that era. See, when we was growing up, discipline was significant, and they gave it to you too. But I think a big part of it was they did that because they knew if you didn't respect them, you wouldn't respect the world out in the streets, and that can get you killed. And so therefore, they were heavy on the discipline. And being heavy on discipline, that lifestyle doesn't have them telling you, I love you, son. And that had never happened. When I read his book and he made the remark he made, and I'm living in Texas, my mom lived in North Carolina at the time. She moved from Philly, so we lived pretty far apart. So we talked pretty regularly. So I decided after reading that book, the next time we talk, every time after that, I'm going to say I love you. We're going to tell each other I love you. And that went on for 21 years. You feel me? So that's why that book's special to me, because I read that and I did something about it, and that made our relationship enhance, me and my mom. So that's special for me.
Well, ditto on that, because believe it or not, Black social scientists have said that's something that's been customary throughout Black America, where in a certain generation where you didn't hear it all the time, but you know that they loved you.
Absolutely, like my generation.
I didn't grow up hearing that all the time. I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't grow up hearing that. It came later, but I didn't grow up hearing it. But you knew your parents loved you. You knew your. And I grew up in the same. I don't come from a 2-parent household. Okay. My dad died when I was young. I mean,
like how young?
I'm gonna say like 7 or 8, maybe.
Okay.
Somewhere in there, 9.
That's a little worse than 12, because at 12, my pop, I never got a chance to talk manhood talk at 12, but probably older than 7 at 12. I have heard him say a thing or two, and I wonder if he laid that out in case he didn't live, because my pop was a diabetic and some more things. But my pop was born in upstate New York. My mom was born in New Jersey, Selma, New Jersey. And my pop, we used to, my mom, my pop, me, and my youngest sister used to eat at the dinner table a lot of times. And we'd talk. And then one day, my pop said that when he first came to Philadelphia, he was carrying 2 guns. Okay. He also has said that he's been around some of the prettiest women with the nastiest mouths. Okay. Also, I don't know why, but he was living with his aunt and uncle. But he messed around and stayed out overnight at 16. And when he got home, his uncle said, well, son, you done grown, and put him out. So that's all the deep stuff I kind of know about. Well, one more. Okay. on my block. It's a small block, you can imagine. Well, you know, sometimes you don't have real court. You make a milk crate to a basketball court. Okay, well, we had that going on. And the fellas there standing around, my pop walking through, come find out my pop pickpocketed one of them and gave it to him. So he must have been some kind of hustler in his life before he came into my mom's life. Because he was only my father. He married my mom and she had 4 children and had me. But I understand he had been married before. Okay. So by the time he got with my mom, he was a different man. But apparently from those things, this guy must have been a hustler of some sort. Apparently. But he was a good man by the time I, knew him.
Right. And with all due respect, a lot of times, a lot of black men, especially for that era, for that time, they were put in those positions, not of their own. We were just, as black people, we've always.
Yeah, my father was born in 1923.
Yeah, I mean, look at Black American. Come on, how bad?
You already know what it was for us.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. A lot of times I understand with back then.
They had to hustle. I even knew a master plumber. Check it out. I knew a master plumber in Philadelphia. He's the one who got me in my plumbing stuff. And he said that a lot of times, sometimes even time would get so hard that the plumbers would put stuff in down people's house drain so it could get stopped up so they can get a job. So it ain't just criminal, it's illegal, but it just is what it is sometimes. I know what you're saying.
And that's not their fault. The society they live in, the system they live on, force those conditions.
Absolutely.
See, that's the thing about when we talk about the mischief, even when we talk about the ghetto, and people talk about the hood. Mm-hmm. All I'm saying for people in the ghetto and the hood, understand black people didn't create the hood and the ghetto. White people created that.
We were targeting
that. So when when people say, "Oh, I'm from the ghetto," I said, "Oh, you from a Jewish establishment?"
That's funny you said that.
Ghetto is a Jewish word. It came. The first ghettos, European Jews lived in them.
But guess what?
It had nothing to do with us.
The neighborhood I grew up in, it used to be Jews there.
How did I know that?
Yeah, that's what was interesting. But guess what? It was interesting because, growing up, right? We used to do this stuff like cross your finger when you lying. It's like, well, my finger crossed like that, voided the lie. You know about that? We did that growing up. But the year of the Million Man March, I was taking a History 101 class at El Centro, because I like to just take classes sometimes. Mm-hmm. And it came out, and it was so interesting. It was talking about how the Catholics were doing something like indoctrinating the Jews, and they had them take an oath. And those Jews crossed their finger when they took the oath and say, "So I didn't really take it." Oh, hell, we got that from them Jews. We didn't even know where it came from, but we did that too. And being in a old Jewish neighborhood, apparently they left some of their stuff because there weren't no children. It was only grown folks. But somehow it trickled down to us little black children. I don't know if this is Jewish about dropping something on the ground, picking it up, kissing up the guy who needed it. I don't know if that's Jewish, but I know that. I don't know
where they came from, but
so that happened here too.
Yeah, that's universal. That's universal law.
Apparently.
Now I do know that a lot of people, and I'm gonna say this because some people are misinformed.
Right.
I know that jumping the broom does not come from black people. Okay. Like when people say jump in the broom to get to, and some people have done
that.
It
was slavery. The slave people.
It didn't come from us. Not even doing those black people that were those Africans in slavery. They didn't even get that from Africa. They didn't.
I thought they got it from the Caucasian people. I thought they.
Yeah, it's a Caucasian tradition. It came from Scotland and Ireland because it's a lot of black people.
You mean other places even? Okay.
Yeah, it come from Scotland. It don't even come from white people here. It come from white people in Scotland and Ireland. It does not. It don't come from here. So it's funny. It's kind of like when people say, like tap dancing. Mm-hmm. Black people created their own form of tap dancing. But then people say, well, white people have their form of tap dancing too. Well, they do. The Irish, they have what they call clogging. They do clogging. Right. That's a form of tap, but that's their tap. Our tap that we did, and a lot of people don't understand this, that started off with Africans tapping on the ground for giving signals to each other when they got here. That's how tap dancing had a meaning of communication behind it for a codified language so the master would know. We had all kind of creative ways.
Yeah,
that's where tapping came from. So when people say, "Oh, he tap dancing, Mr. Bojangles and all that," do you understand what that really come from and why that was done? So because I'm a dancer too. So I'm like, I had to learn the history of that so I wouldn't be miseducated or misrepresented.
Well, I never heard about the tap dance part, but I heard people say he ham boning. What is that exactly?
Ham bone, from what I know, and that's an old folk African in the Americas or African United Statesers. That's an old thing that goes back to, I want to say, the late 1800s. What if ham bone, you heard? And I want to say the geographical location where that developed from what I understand, is Louisiana.
Okay.
Just like there was another one they had. There's a song it's real famous. My black boy and your black boy setting fire to fire.
I heard that.
I said, your black boy, we're gonna set their town on fire. Talking about ayo. That's,
I don't know where it come from, but I
that's
heard
black
that
Louisiana. Yeah,
okay.
somebody from New Orleans or from some other small part of back in the woods somewhere could probably tell you the deeper meaning, because that's all rooted in the Africans that came and were brought to Louisiana. So that's part of their social folklore from the black people of Louisiana. And that's another thing, geographic location. Certain black people throughout the United States contributed to the black experience that made it a collective, a whole thing, and it got transcended and passed around. So a lot of people don't know that since I'm a Texas native, I like to represent. A lot of people know the greatest fighter against white supremacy, in the 20th century, in the 19th century, was actually from Texas, the great Jack Johnson. Jack Johnson.
Okay, you're talking about boxing, that fighting.
Yeah, I'm 30. But he was a symbol. He was a symbol.
Definitely a symbol.
Because he was a symbol, because what he did, I mean, I like Muhammad Ali said, Jack Johnson was the pinnacle of what was to everyone to strive for, to be the best in all areas.
Black masculinity, I suspect. It was the black masculinity.
Black masculinity, and also to impose your will if you have to. If you have to impose your will.
I don't know if you heard this before. I heard that Jack Johnson, the one came up with the medicine ball, because they saw him fat and out of shape, and so they challenged him with a Caucasian man, thinking he was so out of shape that he made the medicine ball to get himself down to the right size. I heard that.
Well, I don't know that about him, but I will say this about Jack Johnson. I will say these two things. Mm-hmm. One, for him as an inventor, he invented a wrench. And some people say, well, did he create the monkey? Is that what they call it, the monkey wrench? I said, no, there were people that said that, but from the research I've done, there is no evidence to show that the monkey wrench, they called the wrench, the monkey wrench, we called it him. But he did create a wrench that is widely used even to this day. A lot of people he invented that himself. Mm-hmm. Not only that, a lot of people don't know this about the great Jack Johnson. There's a movie that people should watch. There's a documentary by Ken Burns. It's called Unforgivable Blackness. And this is about Jack Johnson, the boxer. And you can watch it on Netflix, I'm sure. You can get it. You can go get the DVD. It's a great film. It's called Unforgivable Blackness. It's a Ken Burns movie. Ken Burns is a white Jewish dude. Does brilliant documentaries though. But he comes with it raw. That Jack Johnson, because it's raw footage from Jack Johnson and everything. Samuel Jackson narrates some part, but it's brilliant, man. And I tell people to watch it. But also, Jack Johnson was the original owner of the Cotton Club in New York. A lot of people don't know that.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, he sold it. He sold it to some white Italians or white Italians or white Greek dudes. But that was his. He was doing that because he had a big band. He had him a big band because he was in the jazz. I mean, he did a lot. He was an entrepreneur also.
Right.
I admire Jack Johnson. He was criticized for the women that was on his arm, and I got into a heated disagreement.
And when you say criticize, you're talking about the fact they were Caucasian women, I'm sure.
And I'm gonna clarify. There was at the Active Change Institute, may Eshu Deli rest in peace, Brother Eshu Deli, who created that institution. Well, we used to have something called Freedom Fridays up there, and anything goes in terms of Black liberation. And we'd have discussions, we'd watch films and then critique them. But I never will forget, and I feel I had to defend Jack Johnson because, in a nice way, because there was some people that were, he he had them white women, them Caucasians or white women. I said, okay, hold on.
Right.
Hold on, back up. Then I threw out the name. I said, Sally Hemings. Sally Hemings.
Right.
And they got quiet. I said her name because she was with Thomas Jefferson, and she was a teenager, so he was really committing the act of child molestation.
LaRome, could you hold just a half a minute?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
This your show. Let me put him on mute.
Sorry about that, LaRome.
No problem. It's your show, man. I'm just visiting.
Well, the thing of it is, I had 2 bottles of water already, and I had used the restroom. I ain't never had a show past 2 hours before.
Well, wait, okay, back up. That's why I asked you.
No, I'm saying I had to use the restroom. That's what happened.
Yeah,
I drank 2 bottles of water. But now but the show is going so great, I didn't want to end it because you got so much to give. I'm like, well, let me just use the restroom because usually I would have shut it down. I'm like, no, I don't want to shut this down. I only got too much going on.
Well, thank you, brother. I'm humble. I'm humbled by your recognition. Thank you. Well, because like I said earlier, but by the creator do all the information for. Right. You know.
But also, you did put forth some efforts to get this
knowledge. Oh, most definitely, sir. Yeah. I mean, hey, I took a. Okay, I put it like Hattie McDaniels. I use Hattie McDaniels terms.
Okay.
I did my best, and God did the rest. The Creator
I like that. I like that. I hadn't heard, but I like that.
That's Hattie McDaniel. That's Hattie McDaniel when she won the first Oscar ever.
Oh, that's that lady that be on Shirley Temple shows all the time. That lady.
Yeah, the heavy set sister.
Yeah, but she be on Shirley Temple shows a lot. Yeah, and you know that's just interesting to show you. When I was growing up watching TV before I stopped at 14, they only showed us in a negative light. And if you were black on the TV, you was like that lady, a maid or butler or something like that. And when those butlers around, when a Caucasian man come around, they act like they were petrified. And only black people that got any respect was a singer or a dancer. But then Shirley Temple, she was like a baby genius, right? But that's what they did to show us in the horriblest light that they could and show even their children as being brilliant.
Well, I used to feel like that. I had a social discussion with some other brothers and sisters about that. And I told them that when I started doing research and analyzing and strategically looking at all of that from the Aunt Jemima and Stephen Fetchard and Hattie McDaniel and what's his name, Mantan Marlin, and all these great people from that time period. And if you want to say that the people that were singing and dancing, they were still just entertaining white people. If that's why they spotlighted them.
Well, that's what it was.
They spotlighted them as entertainers, but they didn't respect them as human beings. And I'm gonna say this. They didn't. And I'm gonna say this in their defense, because I told people I used to be offended by that, but when I started really getting into the research and analyzing, I'm not offended by it. And I tell people,
you're talking about the black people.
The black people. You don't get a Denzel Washington, a Samuel Jackson, or a Lawrence Fishburne without having Stephen Fetchard. I told people, follow me. You don't get any of those people without Mantan Marlins, without, of course, Sidney Poitier. Even Sidney Poitier came on the backs of those people who came before him. Bill Bojangles Robinson, who was the gentleman that danced with Shirley Temple. the first interracial dance partnership couple in the world was if it's the black man with Shirley Temple. And I will say this for Shirley Temple, because I heard her say this as an adult on an interview. How with what our parents told her about Mr. Billboard Jenkins Robinson, she was told this, especially by mom, you always respect him. You call him Mr. Robinson. You never would say no. In other words, she said she was taught, regardless of what you hear these other white folks in Hollywood saying, he is your senior. You will respect him. We will not look down. I respected her for that, because that's something that make the tabloids. And she said that there was a time when her mom didn't like the way something was going, or where they were talking about Billboard Jenkins Robinson. So she grabbed her and she took her off the set that day. Mm-hmm. That happened. So my point is, those little things that other people might have done that were not black, they factored in the whole. And I'm going back to say the reason I'm not offended by Hattie McDaniel and all those characters, because it was not them. It was the pathology, as Dr. Bobby Wright would say, in the psychopathic racial personality. It was the pathology of white people that created that. Whether we were stepping in, that was their ideal of us. That was not ideal of us. And they were telling us basically to get paid and to be seen, you'd have to play this. Otherwise, you won't get this. You won't get paid, or you won't get a job. So I tell people, so I don't look at them like that anymore. That was a demeaning coming from the white psyche, not the black psyche. Right. Because we had brothers and sisters that were classically trained in all areas of great performance. Paul Robeson, brilliant. But some of the roles he had to settle for was not his ideal. It was white people in Hollywood's ideal that subjugated him to that type of thing. He offered to even buy films to not show certain images of black people. They wouldn't sell the films that he was in, because he didn't like in the final cut how they showed the mean black people. Mm-hmm. He offered, they wouldn't sell it to him, but Paul Robeson made that attempt. And another thing about Paul Robeson, let me tell people, brother spoke 16 to 21 different languages. He was a concerto
fluently.
Traveled all over the world, was paid to come sing in Russia and all these different countries all over the world, was also all academic American, not just all American football, all academic American at Rutgers University. Also, summa cum laude, first in his law school class at Columbia University as a lawyer, but could not get a job. It's another reason why he went into acting. Because
let me ask you this. Okay. Do you know what happened that they went after Paul Robeson like that? Do you know why?
Yes, sir.
Okay, tell the people.
It was all staged, and not just Paul Robeson that they went after, but they created this communist. There was this McCarthyism. They had this McCarthyism. Certain people they labeled as communists. Basically, anybody that was helping black people.
Well, but check this out. You do know that at that certain era before that you're talking about, communism was legal in this country.
Mm-hmm. It was. They had a party.
Well, that's the thing. And so most prominent black people, that's the party they was in.
Because they were doing something for black people.
Right. Well, they were talking the talk. They weren't walking the walk. They let them, let me say this, they'll let them get on their political ballot tickets and stuff like that. You can run for whatever. But they never let them in the union on the job site. So that's what's crucial. Elections, all them elections was just, I look at it like this. When they had that Communist Party, all that was family feud between these Caucasians. That's all it was. Because you know about the Scottsboro boys, right?
Yeah,
that's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Because communism was legal then.
Yeah, and the communists played the crucial part in actually getting them out of there. Because they didn't
get out. One guy get out.
No. There were like 4 or 5 of them got released earlier, and then they kept 4. There were 4 or 5. Yeah, go back and read the book. Go ahead. Yeah,
I don't have the book. I have the documentary. I have the documentary.
Yeah. Okay, go back and look at the documentary.
Matter of fact, do you have a copy?
I have a copy of the documentary.
Okay, because I'm gonna have one for you if you didn't.
Yeah, go back and look at the documentary. The last one escaped, who was kept in there. And there was
one escape. Yeah, but all of them didn't get out.
Yeah, but not at the same time.
Well,
but
some of them died in prison.
Yeah, but because some went back after they got out.
If I'm not mistaken,
but they all got out of Scottsboro. They all got out of Scottsboro. Some died in prison later on for something else.
Maybe so. But
that's what happened. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I'm gonna say that the reason I say that the Communist Party helped in this sense, they provided this lawyer named Lipowitz. He defeated them in the courtroom concerning the Scottsboro boys. It's just that they didn't like him, so they made a motion. They made a motion. The lawyer that was in Scottsboro, that white racist, he made a motion to get that white Jewish, get him out of here because he said they had lost. They even moved the judge. Because the judge said he agreed with him. He pretty much said that these boys didn't do that because his conscience was like. But then they put a hardcore racist in that position. But I'm telling you, if we're gonna base it, the communist lawyer, the guy that the communists brought in, he did defeat them. He did prove that they.
But they had said, if you remember, they said, "Well, they beat us in the Civil War, but I'll be damned, they gonna beat us in this." And that's why those courts was going so hard on those guys.
That doesn't mean
they shouldn't even never been in jail. Yeah.
No, they shouldn't have. Yeah. But I'm just saying that. But you're dealing with white Scottsboro, Alabama, and so
racism.
You could exactly. So it's in there. You're in their den. You're in their house.
But check it out. If you remember, the fact that a Communist Party lawyer came, that offended them, and they said, "I'll be damned."
Right, because in that Communist lawyer defeated them in their courtroom. He proved it.
Well, he may have on paper, but not in reality. Didn't get them guys out of prison.
Well, he brought in even the witness that testified. So go back and watch. They let the four of them go first. They let them go, and then they let the other ones get out later. But then the last one escaped, and the ones that end up going back, it was something that happened because their lives would have been messed up, man. I mean, you institutionalized as a teenager, as a child, 13, 19, 13,
yeah,
15.
But the root was they was lied on by the white lady claimed that they
two white girls. But the one came back and said they didn't do it. And
but then they didn't accept it. They said, "Well, y'all paid us to say that."
But
all that.
Yeah, but when you say that, that's not saying all the white people were against them. The white people of Alabama, that's what I'm saying. That white lawyer that came in, he proved his point. He defended him. But he couldn't help. He didn't run Alabama, so they ran him out.
Couldn't get him out, right? He couldn't get him out. So, but my thought is, why weren't they sharp enough to not use no communists, sending him down south where they would have that stigma to dwell on? They wasn't too smart.
I guess at that time, looking at the time period, they just wanted him out, and so they figured he was the best lawyer because he was known for keeping buck.
But they didn't think it through. They forgot about the racism aspect.
I don't think a Johnny Cochran could have did it at that time. So I'm just saying, at least, but he had white. He did. When you go back and watch, you see that the first four did get out. It was a total of 9. It was 9 of them. Yeah, and
I know it was several of them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they kept going. One of the first ones to get out, he was blind. He was partially blind. One of the first ones.
But something you mentioned something about you feel bad or you look at them differently. I forgot who you was talking about.
I was talking about the actors in Hollywood.
Oh yeah.
From way back. Right. Yeah, from way back.
But when you said
I'm not offended by that. I'm not offended by that
but
anymore.
When you said that, you made me think of Toussaint Louverture because because this is the thing that I heard and I was so shocked and couldn't believe it. Okay, he ultimately tried to go to France, and before he can get to the land, Napoleon had him off, took him, put him in the dungeon, and left him, and he died there. Okay, initially I'm thinking, you mean to tell me he fell for the okie doke? I thought that they sent him a bunch of gifts and treasures and all that and say, man, come on, that was a heck of a deal. Come celebrate with us. We going this, that, and the other. And the thing of it is, they sent him a sealed letter from the king of France. So he believed it. Okay. That's what I'm thinking. Wow. And then come to find out, they didn't send them nothing. No gifts, no nothing. Just letters back and forth. But I'm still thinking, goodness, how could homie fall for that? All right. But then here recently, let me say this first, because this is newfound information for me. Here recently, like last year, I hear them talking, saying that even though they had defeated France and all that, that they had them paying some type of reparations or fees or money or something like that. Okay. Then I even knew about letters, him and Napoleon back and forth and all that. So with all that thought, and then this, that, and the other, and then he went, I said, okay, they tricked that brother. They made him think that this is a sincere thing, this, that, and the other. All right, come on, we're going to do this, we're going to make this, and we're going to say, be all right. Okay, now what happened, now that king, France king, sent this seal, which supposed to mean you safe, and this is sincere. But what happened when Napoleon had the brother off and took him and did that, the king gonna say, well, he never made it to land, so I didn't have any jurisdiction in the sea. Ain't that some BS?
Maritime law. Maritime law. And I had to tell somebody recently, whenever people say the maritime, and people see that a lot, and I wonder, what does that mean when I see maritime? That means during sea time, people traveling by ships and boats.
Right, and that's how he justified not honoring his letter to that brother. And that's a terrible thing. And I understand they still having to pay France to this day.
Yeah, they are, because of the fact, well, and part of it is this, all the white powers, not just France, but United States.
Yeah, the ones that met in Africa, right? See how they gonna slice it up.
Great Britain, but they all agreed on this. Yeah, Haiti defeated us, those Africans in Haiti. Yeah, they defeated us, but they will suffer from here on out. In other words, they're going to be poor. And that's by design. Because you got your arrogance. You with your arrogance think you're going to beat us and do this and embarrass us like this, you'll suffer this way. Anybody, now, since you talk about paying reparations, a lot of people don't know this. The white people and the white planters and slave owners in the South will actually pay reparations after the slaves after the so-called
I've seen that a lot on the internet.
So they paid the former
perpetrators. They paid the culprits money.
So that's called white people looking out for white people. I mean,
they do that whenever we're around, because they fight each other too. But as soon as we on the scene, they'll unite enough to beat us, then they'll go back fighting.
Well, Malcolm called it a united front, and it's because we need one, because that's the difference between them and us. We're fighting, kill each other in front. A lot of us will fight and kill each other in front of us, so we're on the dancing stage. They do it behind closed doors, but when they come to us, they agree with this one thing. Whether P.W. Botha in South Africa, whether in the Belgian Congo, I'm Leopold, whether I'm Napoleon. One thing I agree, my brother, when we come together, it's us versus them. That's how they feel.
That's the way they feel.
And so, but I think that's just, cooperation, collective cooperation among your kind. Self-preservation. That's all it is.
And that's what we're about to do too. Absolutely. Yeah. Self-preservation is the number one law of nature.
It is. Yeah. And so I can't knock them. I mean, I knock what they do, but I understand.
I can knock them because they do it in such heinous manners. You don't have to kill all these people for no land. What kind of person would kill for money or gold? What a heinous person. But that's my point. That is a heinous thing.
and that's why, and I tell people all the time, you got to understand, when you talk about Black freedom and liberation, Black people have always fought. I'll say now, Tucson Overture, that was one battle. We've had many.
Oh, yeah, we've had to fight. If we hadn't had, we might not be here.
I'm going to bring this up. A lot of people talk about Tucson, but they don't know about Gaspar Yanga in Mexico.
Okay.
Gaspar Yanga set up one of the first Black townships anywhere in the world, in the Western world. He set it up in Mexico. You go to Mexico right now, there's a part of Mexico called Yanga, Mexico. And it's a statue. It's there. You can see it. It's a big Black man, with medium height Black man, very muscular. It's a statue of him. A lot of those are his descendants that are there, and people that came and fought. They defeated the Spanish. If you go to Jamaica, the Maroons, Marcus Garvey was a Maroon. He came from the Maroon people of Jamaica, not just any Jamaican, but Maroons were first warriors and fighters that died. They defeated the British and they defeated the Spanish, and they set up their own territory. You go to
actually,
Brazil.
they enslaved the Spanish for about 700 years.
Well, that's the Moors. That's a whole different
that's
thing.
What I thought you said. My bus.
No, I said Jamaica. I said the Maroons.
Oh,
the
I'm
Maroons
sorry.
Yeah, the Moors come out of Africa. The Maroons were
I thought you said more. My bus.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was talking about the Maroons.
Okay,
yeah,
I hadn't heard of them. So who created that group?
Africans that were in Jamaica. They set up.
It started in Jamaica. Okay, so that was those brothers. I read something about the Jamaicans defeating them Caucasians, and they said those fellas with them locks. Yeah, that's what they talk about, the locks a lot.
Those are Rastas. You talking about the Rastafarians?
Those fighters that fought and got them out of Britain, a lot of them had locks too. Because I saw some writing on it where they said that they dreaded those men with those locks. So
that's something totally different though. What I'm talking about specifically is this group of people called the Maroons that live in Jamaica. They don't even live among the regular Jamaicans. They live in their own area, their own territory. Right. And I say they defeated the British and the Spanish. Did nobody want a part of Marcus Garvey? His family, they were Maroons. They came from that. Okay. And so they kind of had this honorable, fight within kind of vibe. And they still have their community. Actually, if you go to Jamaica, they still live among themselves. And then a lot of times when other Jamaicans would try to come up there to get freedom, they wouldn't even let them in. Because they said you wouldn't fight, if you were not willing to fight and die against this white man from Britain or this white man from Spain, if you were not willing to fight and die, why should we let you in? We can't trust you then. You could be a spy agent for them. So now you can't come up here. So they have a code. And I understand they have a code.
Do you have any idea of what city or something that might be in? Is that
Saint? I want to say Saint Nanny, because one of them name is Nanny, so it's named after her. She had a brother named Cudjoe. The interesting thing about Cudjoe, they created a movie called Cujo about a dog, wild dog.
Right.
Wild dog, but they were really insulting that character, the brother.
Okay, I'm not surprised. That's how they do.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's interesting. I tell people all the time there's a book called The Gilded African about Toussaint Louverture and about Dessalines that people should check out. And another book it's called The Maroons. I got about 2 or 3 books on the Maroons. Those are books that people should check out too. If you want to learn about liberation fighters outside the United States, people that really fought and set up territories as well. As and we have people do that here, but you wanna check those people out because Africa Town. There was a part of Alabama you have called Africa Town that was set up, that black people set up, just like you had Black Wall. I tell people all the time.
I think I heard something about that one.
Oh yeah, the Black Wall Street in Oklahoma. That was just one. There were many. Some was there 30? Now were like hundreds. Some of them are underwater now.
Because that's about that. Some of that is in that Black Massacre book too that you're talking about, under the water, the whole town. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So
I think that might have been South Carolina or something, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, it was
more than one.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and there was
one of the Carolinas, it seemed. Mm-hmm.
There was another one, real significant, very significant. Boley, Oklahoma, which is still around. That was a black town that was thriving just like Tulsa, just like that one was. It was just and it stayed self-sufficient even longer. Black Oklahoma, I think it's still around there.
Well, that's interesting too, because I saw something recently. One of those black scholar brothers was talking about the Black Wall Street, Tulsa, Oklahoma thing. And he said, but what you don't hear, he said that they rebuilt it, like the government and stuff. He said, and then what happened, he said, what messed it up was integration. That was interesting.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I just recently saw that. So there's a lot going on.
I just got a call from a family member, and I was godly. Is my other phone over there? I'm sorry, brother.
Say you all right, but we can go and wrap it up and handle your business. But I appreciate the time. You did 2.5, so I ain't never had a show that long.
Hey, that wasn't intentional, man.
No, it wasn't no problem either. It ain't no problem either, I promise you. No, they got some good stuff.
To be continued, brother. And I enjoyed it, man. Thank you again for having me. I apologize. I didn't finish explaining that whole thing about why I didn't, why I'm not insulted, offended by those images anymore.
Well, because you matured evidently to some different
level.
Well,
I studied the research I do. In the research, you know, people go and study. You will learn it's not you. It was them.
Right.
They didn't create those images for themselves. They created that. And once you get that up there, you have to always understand that's someone, you know, when people mock you, make fun of you, a lot of times because they can't be you. The first feeling of superiority is the first feeling of superiority is inferiority. Right. So I feel I must be superior to you. So I'm really inferior to you, but I'm gonna take it this level because I know you're really superior to me. So I'm just saying when you put it all together, you see through it. But brother, I enjoyed your show.
Likewise. You dropped some jewels, man. I appreciate it.
Anytime. Well, you know I was gonna have to bring something, man. You know I'm gonna try to.
You gonna bring, man. You got such a plethora of knowledge, wisdom, experience. You got so much going on, and our people need to see this. You see what I'm saying? And that's what I believe. Yeah, that will motivate somebody. That'll motivate. Because I noticed this before I went to school from Philadelphia, Thaddeus Stevens State School of Technology in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I thought all Caucasians were educated, but I found out they're not. And I was studying the dictionary. I was doing this, doing that, and I went and man, when I did graduate, I was in the probably top quarter of the whole graduation class, and it wasn't but about 35 blacks out of 500 children. And we are the brilliance of this nation. That's us. So it don't matter where we start at, is where we end at. I'm born in the ghetto, but now where we at now, we helping our people help ourselves. That's important.
Yeah. That's right. I mean, each one teach one, and each one, I would say, you know, keep growing. And no matter what it is, you have to start to finish. I tell people all the time, you got to start to finish. Whatever you want to do, wherever you are, whatever you want to learn, just do it. Like the Nike tennis shoe thing, just do it. It's that simple.
That's
just do
brother. Yeah, thanks again, my man.
Black power.
Oh yeah, power to our people. You have a great evening.
All power to the people. In the words of Fred Hampton. All right, brother.
One of my favorites.
Well, see, we could have gathered to that too. To be continued.
We will.
All right, brother. Peace.
I love my people.